What is up, Cowboys Nation? Your boy Mike Tag here with my main man Greg. As you can see, we didn't have such a bad weekend. It got to the weekend and the Cowboys win. The Canes, win a thriller. So we got the weekend started right. And how you doing, Greg, first of all?
Doing great, man. We had 2 wins back-to-back during the weekday, so we can sit back and watch everybody else lose.
It's what I call a stress-free weekend. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it is.
So those of you guys are rolling in. If you're up early enough, I knew my man Cuts would be up. What's up, Cuts? Vince is up. We get a few people up early in the morning. They kind of waking up. So it's cool. But let me ask you a couple things. We're gonna get into some heavy Cowboy stuff, but of course, I'd probably say maybe the game of the weekend, or that we can get into the Georgia-Bama game. That was crazy too. But
it was crazy.
A lot of people who are casual Canes fans or casual college football fans, they're like, oh, I can't believe the Canes, they should have killed him and this and that. But I don't think they understand. And Greg, I know you appreciate it. Virginia Tech and Miami, that is a big rivalry. That's been a rivalry all the way back to the Big East days. And Virginia Tech's a better team than some people realize. I mean, they returned a lot of their starters. They got off, obviously, had a couple bad games, but there was no doubt in my mind it was going to be a dogfight. I mean, what was your thoughts, Greg?
Same thing. I did one of my little hype videos before it, and I even mentioned in there, I said, do not take Virginia Tech for granted. Virginia Tech is coming down to spoil our day, and Virginia Tech was strong. I knew it was going to be a good game. You weren't going to be a run over, and they barely lost one of the games prior to us. And the running game, I knew, even though the guy had a brace on his leg, I knew he was still going to be able to run overs. And that game proved to be exactly what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, and were we watching the Cowboys in Canes uniforms, because it just looked like couldn't stop the run, and we had some bad penalties?
Yeah, it did seem like that, didn't it? Like the Cowboys were playing them. But it was an awesome game, and it got to a point where I knew at the end the Canes would come back. But I was wondering if Canes get a last drive, would they fail on that last drive or not? Or if Borregales, if it was left up to him, whether he would hit the field goal. But we didn't need it, and that worked out great.
Yeah, and I mean, a couple things in that game. Obviously, the fake field goal went back to bite Virginia Tech in the you-know-what.
Yeah.
I had a feeling, because Virginia Tech always does something, special teams always try and find something, and Miami was definitely waiting for it. That was a huge momentum turn. And in Virginia Tech, we're going to get into the controversial play, which I don't think is very controversial, but we're going to get into it anyway. The Virginia Tech coaching staff, very questionable decision, especially down the end, just letting that clock just tick down. Maybe they might not have been in a position where they needed a Hail Mary because they were moving the ball a little bit. But, I mean, what do you think of Virginia Tech's coaching decisions in some of those key moments?
Well, first of all, I was happy that they made bad coaching decisions.
Of course.
It benefited us. When they tried to run that ball and we stopped them at the goal, well, not goal line, but maybe 5 or 10 yards. I was like, oh, yeah, that's perfect. That's going to change the momentum right there. And then when the clock was running down, I was like, oh, I know what he's doing. He doesn't want to give Miami an opportunity to throw one last pass, assuming he's going to get a touchdown. I said, but when that clock's running out like that, that benefits us, because put more pressure on them to try to make a play. But his decisions helped us seal that victory, which in the game, coach is going to make good decisions. Some of them going to make bad decisions. Cristobal had his nightmare decision last year against Georgia Tech. Well, Virginia Tech did the same thing a couple of times. I'm so glad they made them, and I'm glad Miami came out as a win, because I wanted to preserve that at least 7 spot, and not get a loss this early in the season at home.
At home, you can, and they'll move up some, because some other crazy thing that's happening, in college football with some of the teams that went down that was ranked ahead of them. We'll see how it works out. But good morning to my man Jeff. Now, I don't know if Jeff is the one.
Yeah.
I don't know if Jeff is the one that sent me this still shot. I mean, very easy to pick a still shot and say, oh, he caught the ball. But I pulled a little video. I want to show the video. We can comment on it. And this is a very good angle of the controversial play, and we're just gonna walk ourselves through it. Let's see if I can get this thing right. Wait a minute. Hold on, let me fix it right here. Let's fix it right. I got to get this. Let's see. Is it this way? There we go. All right. So we're looking at the ball. You see him going down, and they're going to reverse. See that ball moving around, Greg?
Yeah. He never had it.
The guy, Miami Hurricane touches the ball. It's over. He's out of bounds. But the ball, he still never had control of it.
No, he never had control.
And then they're sitting there fighting for it. So that was basically it. And there's really not, wasn't Jeff. I apologize. It was somebody starting some trouble with me. But the ball was moving. And why they called it a touchdown really infuriated me because they had to have enough video evidence to overturn it. I don't know how you could have called that a touchdown. They should have went no touchdown and let the video evidence prove it. Go the other way. I don't know who called it a touchdown. I don't know any of that. But it was clearly, it shouldn't have never come down to it, but it clearly was not a catch. I mean, all the people that are complaining, let's just move on from that. Would you say, Greg?
Yeah, everybody that's complaining are not Miami Hurricane fans. So of course they're gonna say it was a catch because they didn't want to see Miami win. It wasn't a catch. That when he fell on the ground, when the ball came down, he fell on the ground, the ball bobbled out, and he's out of bounds. And that's not a catch. And the ball continued to bobble, and the Miami Hurricane guy pulled it out. My biggest fear was because of the fact that they called it a touchdown and they kept looking at it so long.
Yes.
I said, they're going to say they don't have enough evidence to overturn it. But when they came back, they must have had crystal clear evidence to be able to look down that sideline, which was the perfect angle of the one you showed, and saw where he hit the ground and the ball bobbled, and now he's out of bounds. And no matter what happens after that, it's no good. So they had the perfect view to overturn it because it takes a lot to overturn a play. So all the people that aren't Hurricane fans that said he caught it, I can understand why you would say that. It's just like if it was your team, you say the same thing. But the referees took a long, long look. And remember, it takes a lot of evidence, precise evidence to overturn versus to stick with it. And Miami won the game.
Yeah, no. And I think they might move up to 5. Before we jump to the Cowboys, last thing on college, just some crazy games. But this is what I say. First, let me just finish on the Canes. These are the type of games, and I even talk about with the Dallas Cowboys. These are the type of battles that pay dividends down the stretch.
Yes.
And I've always talked about you need to be battle tested as the season goes on. You don't want the easy wins. And we're going to get into the Dallas game, and I'll give you my thoughts. And Greg, we're going to get your thoughts on it as well. But these are the kind of games that pay dividends in the end. The other thing I like to see, and I posted a video of Michael Irvin. It kind of went a little viral on it, and he was pumping up the team. And, some people don't like that. Some people say, oh, it's a waste of time. Oh, these kids, no one's listening. Because I said, why don't they have this kind of passion, on the Cowboys sidelines? Right?
Yeah.
And to me, maybe I'm wrong. The game, football is a game of emotions, and really a lot of sports are, depending on the sport. And I would just say this, I did not play high school in Broward County. I was about 100. I wrestled 125, so they give you the idea. So I wrestled. And, before a match, man, my teammates, they get in your face, pump you up, slap you, whatever it is, man, you get the adrenaline gets going. And sometimes you need a wake-up call.
Yes.
And so the passion that Michael Irvin has for the University of Miami, I don't ever want that to go away. And those kids felt it. You saw the difference when Michael Irvin was out there. You can go back and listen to what he said, and you can go watch the video of what he said. And I love that. And I think there's nothing wrong with it. And some people take offense to it or whatever. Maybe they never played football. Maybe they never played competitive sports. But, sports is a game of emotions and passion. And sometimes you need a little boot in the ass because you're feeling a little flat. Did you have any issues with Michael Irvin and his being on the sidelines and being as animated as he always is?
No. And to those that did, got that for you. Michael Irvin and anybody on any team that comes out on the sideline to boost the team like that and do that, that is inspiring. If you played any sports, I played a lot of sports on several levels. And let me tell you something, you need that hype. And you got somebody that used to play with you or somebody that really follows you and comes out there and throws. Sometimes that's that last little edge that you needed to get your motivation from here to here. And then you go out there and you play your best game. It's like putting a battery charge on you all of a sudden. Bam! Oh, shit. Here we go. Here we go. And Michael Irvin, what he did on sideline, I was sitting over here like, get him, Michael. Get him, Michael. You know, just, and then when I saw him and Jason at the end of the game where they were hugging and doing this in his own, I'm like, that's that Miami. That's Miami Hurricanes right there. That's what you need. But once again, all the people that didn't like it, you are not Hurricane fans. Because if your team was doing it, you wouldn't have an issue with it. So I understand that, haters. Get over it. Miami swag is back.
Yeah.
And we are in the top 10 right now, playing lights out. Y'all hate it that we got Cam Ward because it took our program to a whole different level. We're going to enjoy this season.
No, absolutely. And I the love that he has for the University of Miami. I grew up down there. You've been a Miami fan. You live down there too. The love that these former players have. I mean, it is just different sometimes at Miami. I haven't really seen that a lot with other teams. I mean, you see some of the players come back, but during the offseason, all the guys come back and they work with the other, work with the kids there. And they also work together, the NFL guys. It is like a brotherhood like no other. So I love the passion he has for Miami. I need to get that shirt with the U when he held the hand up and it's got the U. It's the orange and the green there. I got to find that shirt. I got to go down to Caneswear and see if they got it on my next trip down there. But it was awesome. The other game, and Jeff was talking about it, unbelievable. The Bama Georgia game. I'm watching it. It's 30-0 or whatever it was. It was crazy. And I'll be honest with you, I gave up on it. I was tired. So then I started watching something else, and then I clicked back over, and it's Georgia's winning. Georgia's winning, and then that unbelievable 17-year-old kid blows my mind playing at that level. Unbelievable catch, and the way he juked everybody. I mean, what a game. What a game for Georgia and Alabama.
I saw that game, and I turned away from it because I wanted Georgia to win. I don't like Alabama. I told you, when my dad retired from Air Force, we thought we were going back to New York. He went to Birmingham, Alabama, because that's where he was born and raised. I never liked Birmingham. I never liked Alabama. He was a state trooper. So he used to go to the University of Alabama campus, watch them practice. He used to go escort Bear Bryant into the game. He brought me a signed photo of Bear Bryant, said to Greg, best wishes. I don't know where it's at. I didn't want to keep that. And then I said, I'm getting out of here when I'm 18. I left. When I saw Georgia and all my friends in Alabama, roll tide, roll tide, roll tide, roll tide. I'm so tired of it. When I saw Georgia getting their butt whooped, I turned the channel. I was watching another game. And then I came back later. I said, let me see what that final score was. And I was like, Georgia's driving to take the lead. And they took the lead. I called my brother Jim in Birmingham. I said, Jim, you seen it? He said, you watching the game? I said, yeah, man, I'm watching this. I said, man, if they hold these boys, they beat Bama. I said, I can't wait to get on all them boys back home. On Lou and all them. I can't wait to die. I said, I bet you they taking off their clothes, running down the highway naked right now. I bet you they mad. And then all of a sudden, the next series, here comes this freshman. He had a Devontae Smith.
Yeah.
Juke.
Oh, my God. The juke was unbelievable. It was unbelievable.
Young boy's like, pop, 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 boom. I said, oh, well, Georgia's going to lose it. And then he throws the interception in his zone. I said, oh, man, get out of here.
Yeah. No. And he rushed it. And it was like, why did you have to throw that pass? I would have worked the middle. You could have got the first down. I don't know what they were thinking. But, that's why we love football, college football. And I think you're going to see a lot of this, obviously, NFL. So let's get into it, man. Let's get into, the other passion in our lives that Greg and I have. I told you, we're brothers from another mother because we love the Canes and now we love the Cowboys. So we could sit here and talk for about 10 hours about all this stuff. So Cowboys win. I didn't get your response on it. I didn't get your response on the game. I'd love to get your impressions. I'll share mine afterwards. And then obviously any of you guys in the chat would love to, you guys, comment and all that as well. So what was your thoughts on the game, the result, just the whole thing?
Well, first of all, a win is a win, so I'm happy we got it. It was ugly. We had way too many penalties, 89 yards in penalties. Guyton and BB got tested. They really got tested, and Guyton realized that he's not as super as he thought he was, and he knows he's got a lot to learn, which is good because if you're going to learn it against the Giants in New York. BB fared better, but BB had a few issues too. I thought we had too many plays for Lamb in the backfield. I didn't like that. It was automatic when Lamb was in the backfield that they knew he was going to be going out or something. I didn't like that at all. The seams weren't open for him. Lipke had a hell of a catch that helped save the game. As usual, Aubrey played his best game, which I really enjoyed. But rushing yards, time of possession, you name it, Giants outbeat us and all of that. But our red zone defense was on point. Red zone defense was on point. If you didn't really pay attention, Giants were down there about 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
And all they got was field goals. That was a good defensive game. And even with Malik Neighbors, we had a good defensive game holding them down. And Amani Aruwe, he came in off the practice squad and showed
I'm glad
up.
you said his name because I wasn't about to attempt it.
I had to practice it several times. But he came in off the practice squad and showed up. And the defensive line was decent. They didn't get a lot of pressure on Daniel Jones, which kind of, it kind of stymied some because Parsons, it seems like either Parsons is in a funk or everybody's got his number now and Parsons can't be as successful as he wants to. But what really scared me the most at the end of the game was the fact that D-Law and Parsons are out for several weeks. Now, the flip side, we got some replacements. We got Al Muhammad, we got Marshawn Nealon, Shaka Tony, Carl Lawson, and Phil Hoskins is an option to come off the practice squad. If those guys come in and they're hungry enough and they step it up, I think that the person that's going to have to worry about it the most when he comes back is D-Law.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I like the way D-Law play. I don't know. I know you haven't been a big fan of D-Law, but I love I just think he does all the dirty work, man. I think he's underappreciated by a lot of Cowboy fans. Just my own opinion, humble opinion. I know some people have a hard time, with the comments that he did, but I mean, going back to the game, and we're going to get into Parsons and Tank being out, but I mean, my impressions of the game, never apologize for a win. Right. Never apologize for a win. The defense showed up, and I got a comment. Naturally, I get the hate comments, and someone said Dallas shouldn't have won the game. They're lucky to win the game. The refs gave them the game, and I gave him a comment back, and for some reason, he never responded back. I said they didn't give up a touchdown. Our Giants, all they got is field goals. And last I checked, the only team that loses when they give up only field goals is the Giants. They did that against Washington. They scored 3 touchdowns. And they still end up losing the game to Washington, who didn't even get a touchdown against them. So the defense showed up. They did not allow them to score, and that was critical. I thought the run defense, and a lot of people are saying, oh, well, it was just Singletary. Go look at what the Giants rush yards in certain games were. I saw 175. I saw 125. I saw 115. We gave up 20-something yards, 1.1 yards a carry. That is progress. Is it perfect? Was it a perfect game for the defense? No. You also have to consider some of the things, and it's not excuses, but it's just reality. You had Carson. You don't have Bland. You don't have Carson. Mm-hmm. You go down to Booth, and Booth was absolutely lost. Oh, my God. I mean, the twirling around and falling. I don't know how many times he fell. Then they bring in your guy from Penn State. I won't pronounce his name. He came in and played okay, but they were abusing that side of the field. Let's just be honest. I mean, any throw they had, they were going to get. So it was going to be difficult and challenging when you're playing your 4th and 5th corner on that side. There's going to be problems, but I thought the defense held up. I thought they showed a little bit of heart. The offense was still just not. I mean, it's just not there. And I think it all comes down to the running game. And it's a combination of the running backs. And I think it's also a combination of the offensive line just trying to find their way. And you talked about Guyton and Beebe. And, so I know a lot of people are hating on Guyton, but I think we all said this was going to be a work in progress. This offensive line, it's going to get better as the games go on. They're going to get better. And I thought this was a game Guyton, they were going up against a, solid defensive front. Guyton struggled, and you expect it. I'm not going to kill him on it. And BB struggled a little bit, but he didn't still give up any pressures. But he had a couple penalties. I'm not going to kill them on it. But the running game's got to help out. So, I mean, what is your impressions of Guyton and BB so far for you guys in the chat, you guys watching? I mean, really, with you, Greg, as well. I mean, is it kind of what you expected? Are they doing better? Or are they doing worse?
They're doing better than expected to be new on the team, because they're really out there trying. They're not. I'm gonna say this. Like, let's say with Mozzie, no matter where Mozzie played, look how long it's taken for them to catch on with Mozzie, for Mozzie to catch on. It's like, what is it, Mozzie? Am I hitting the wrong switch on you or what? These two guys came in, BB and Guyton came in, proving themselves. They're hungry. They're hungry. Despite the challenges they had in that Giants game, which are expected because they're new, they still held their ground for the most part.
Absolutely.
And I have nothing bad to say about them other than the fact that the challenges I expected them to see sometime during the season, they finally got them now. And they're going to learn from these challenges going forward. So they know, okay, I had 2-3 good games, even against the Ravens, I was doing pretty decent. Oh, wait a minute now. Oh, my kryptonite is this. So let me get it together for the next few games. But our running game, we need to pull Dalvin Cook off the practice squad. I'm telling you, there's no doubt. And somebody mentioned Shaka Toney isn't on the team. He's on the practice squad.
I thought I was going to ask you because I thought Toney got cut and Muhammad got cut, and they may think about bringing them back. I didn't.
They're talking about replacements, possible replacements for our down people. Where those people I mentioned was
because I think on the roster now you pretty much got Lawson, you got Golston, and you got Nealon. Those are going to be their top 3 options. The trouble with Muhammad is if they bring him back, and now he's from the U, and I say you can never have enough guys from the U. He's still got to serve a game suspension. From last year.
And if they do bring him back next game, put him on the roster for next game, and put him on the roster and let him serve the suspension against Pittsburgh, and then come back later. But Phil Hoskins is on the practice squad. They're saying, he's a long shot, but if they have to go that deep, they will. But we have to bring in Dalvin Cook, period. Now, I understand putting him on the practice squad at first because you want to see how well we can do with the running backs we got, and let him learn the playbook. But we got to have that, because if we had a running game, we don't put Lamb in the backfield. When I saw them put Lamb in the backfield, I knew right then that's because our running game is non-existent. And what I wanted to see more of, what I didn't see, was hitting Zeke out in the flank. Zeke can run down that sideline like nobody and hit Deuce Vaughn out in the flank somewhere. And I didn't see that at all. And I'm like, where are those plays where we hit these guys out in the flank, these running backs, because these guys can catch the ball. I didn't see that. Dowdle did. Dowdle had he was the workhorse, and he did pretty decent for what his position was. But let me flip something real quick. The Giants, I'm going to tell you, and now I'm not cutting our Cowboys, but because of our challenges, I said it to one of the fans out there at the tailgate party. The Giants' new GM that came in with his being arrogant, and they showed it on Hard Knocks, being arrogant about Barkley. The Giants blew that game and the Washington game because they got rid of Barkley. Those 5 times they were in the red zone with us, at least 2 to 3 would have been touchdowns if they had Barkley. And that would have been the difference in the game. Same thing with Washington for them. I'm glad they made that mistake because it helped us. And the fact that they kept Daniel Jones and didn't even go and try to get another quarterback, it makes me think that GM is on some Gungy. But that is perfect for us, because I would rather have a Daniel Jones without a Saquon Barkley, and even though you got Malik Neighbors, and let our chances have our chances at it. And when they come to Texas Stadium, when they come to AT&T, it should be lights out then for us.
Yeah.
But the Giants,
that'll be Thanksgiving. It'll be Thanksgiving.
The Giants burnt their own bridges in that when it comes to recruiting. But we got some serious challenges against Pittsburgh.
He's going to get fired for that. Cowboy Brown, 100% agree. This is really the bigger question for me is Steele. Steele is, you thought he was going to be playing better. He is not playing to the level he was pre-injury. And I think you need him to be solid because, like I said, Guyton is going to win some. He's going to lose some. He's going to have some growing pains. He's got TJ Watt, coming up. Good luck with that. I mean, obviously the Cowboys are going to scheme around it. They've done a
Yeah.
pretty decent job of keeping Dak Prescott, clean. I mean, he's been sacked 10 times in 4 games, so a couple a game or whatever it is. That's not so bad when you're starting, 2 rookie offensive linemen. You're going to get, you're going to get kind of that. But it's into the running game. To your point, it's still, I mean, as a team, it's 3.5 yards a carry. Take CD Lamb out. CD Lamb's averaging 5.5. He's your main guy, but Dowdle's under 4. Zeke is under 3.5. I mean, they got to bring up Cook at some point.
Yes.
And again, I don't know if he's going to be any better or worse. I mean, how the hell do I know, or or anyone else? But at some point, what do you got to lose? I mean, is that it gets to a point where you're getting 3.5 yards a carry as a team? I mean, he could probably do that. I mean, so you're going to be the same. You might be a little bit better. And let me see. We got a question. What do you think about the Cowboys making a trade for one of these 2 running backs? I begged the Cowboys to try and get Trey Lance over to the Dolphins. McDonald, the coach there, Mike, he was there with Trey Lance. So I would love them to get one of their running backs, whether it be Jeff Wilson or even, Wright, the rookie, which I don't know if they give up, or even from the Jets. I mean, the Jets got Braylon Allen. So, Israel's a guy that's probably, he's not even getting anything. I would love to see it. You just wonder, they didn't feel it, for whatever reason. GM Jerry just didn't feel that they needed to add running backs because they could have got any of those guys.
Yeah. And when Jerry was interviewed after that Ravens game, what did he say? Jerry, are you having second thoughts now about signing Derrick Henry? And you could look in his face and tell he was telling a bold-faced lie. He said, "Oh, we couldn't afford him," and then he moved on. I was like, "You're a damn lie. You couldn't afford him." And that was ego. See, Jerry's ego is so huge, it's bigger than a bobblehead. He knew exactly that he made a mistake. I bet during the game when he saw Derrick Henry just stiff arm our players and run over them, I bet he was thinking then, "Damn it, I should have signed him." And he knew better, but his ego will always prevail over coming out, being transparent, and telling the truth, because he does not want people to think that he can't make a bad decision. And he did make a bad decision. And he's not going to go out there and get another running back and trade anybody. But Dalvin Cook better be coming off that practice squad. I'm telling you. You gotta
give him a shot. You gotta give him
Cook. We need more plays for Cook. I don't understand that, man. When he did hit Cook, look, Cook was making those plays. Get some more plays for Cook. Cook is a good route runner. He's getting through those routes.
Do you think they need to move him into the slot? Because
move him wherever is necessary.
Yeah, I just need him. He's not getting the separation. Now, a lot of it goes hand in hand with not being able to run the football. Teams do not fear our running game. They don't even respect our running game. So they're going to play back in coverage. And that's one of the other challenges that we have. I know there's a lot of people, our receivers, we need to get more receivers. Well, everything starts with the run game. Everything starts with the action. All the stuff that you want to do off our passing is predicated on being able to run the football and at least get the teams to respect it. They don't respect our run game right now. That's going to be a problem. I mean, that is a problem, and you're seeing it. One of the other questions, Hassan Reddick, he's not signing with the Jets. I don't think Jerry would pay him. Jerry's not. And the Cowboys have money to pay a guy, but I just don't think the Cowboys are going after anything of premium. Now, you don't know what's out there, who's going to give up what. So I don't want to say they're not trying, but history tells you that they're not. But, I mean, what would you think of Flournoy maybe moving outside with Brandon Cooks on the slot? Now you got Jalen Tolbert, Flournoy on one side, CD Lamb on the other. Let them kind of best man win kind of thing. Opposite CD Lamb, put Cooks in the slot. I mean, take some chances and be creative, because obviously you didn't see anything out of Brooks. I don't even think he played last game. Tolbert he's shown given opportunities, he's been able to make some plays. He's made some stupid kind of penalties, primarily, I think, on special teams. He had one. I think he might have had a holding too, if my memory's right. I can't remember. But maybe get something, because the offense, to me, just doesn't seem like it has any juice.
Well, I was going to say after Cook, get Flournoy, put him in the game. But here's one of the issues I have, and this is how I see it. Dak is relying too much on CD and Ferguson. And Ferguson. And I don't think it has anything to do with Tolbert and Cook not getting open. When Cook gets the ball, those are plays they called in specifically for Cook because of how they want to play it in the red zone. You notice they use Cook a lot in the red zone, especially in the end zone. But those plays right between the 20 and the next 20, Dak to me seems like he always falls to the default. He's looking for CD and Ferguson. And now, after CD got pissed off in the Ravens game, I'm pretty sure that the game plan for CD against the Giants was particular, CD. And I know Dak says he doesn't listen to the media. He doesn't let all this hype get to him. I know Dak heard what CD was saying on the sideline, and I guarantee you Dak was like, I'm going to go to CD as much as possible so it won't look like I'm avoiding him. But at the same time, you still got Cook, Tolbert out here who are getting open, but you're not throwing them the ball. So they got to expand their range. And I really think if we go up into Pittsburgh and we start hitting Cook, Tolbert, bring Flournoy in there. Yeah, hit Lamb, but Cook, Tolbert, Flournoy, it's going to get the Pittsburgh Steelers off key because they're already preparing for Lamb and Ferguson.
Yeah.
Cook and Tolbert, they're thinking, oh, well, they must not be that good. We can put somebody one-on-one on them. No, Dak can have a field day with those two and then bring Flournoy in there if they set a game plan for it. But if they don't and he keeps going to the defaults, we're not going to be as successful because they're looking for it.
Yeah. And I think with Pittsburgh, they're going to Indianapolis today. I mean, they've got an opportunity. Let's say they win. I mean, they're coming in 4-0 or they're going to be 3-1, one or the other. Cowboys obviously 2-2. This is, I don't know about you, Greg, but I mean, being a longtime Cowboy, fan from all the years, you've got to have the same feeling I do. There is no better visual in football than a Steeler helmet and a Cowboy helmet colliding. You look at that down that line of scrimmage. This is, I rated this as I'm pretty sure, maybe I'm wrong, but I thought I did a top 5 rivalries. I thought I had Pittsburgh number 1, and I'm pretty sure I did. Pittsburgh, it's just something about these two franchises and organizations and the history. I love it. So I am looking forward to this game. Not going to be easy, especially with the injuries that we talked about with Parsons and Tank. Obviously, TJ Watt is going to be a major problem.
Yes.
But I look and I think back to some of these games, and I look at what New England did to Pittsburgh one year, because Pittsburgh loves, they run that 3-4 defense, move stuff around and all that kind of stuff. But what I love is when New England spread them out. They spread them wide, and they knew they weren't going to run the ball and couldn't run the ball, so they just spread them wide, and they just dinked and dunked, and Brady just down the field. And Dallas could follow a similar plan because, you don't want to bang your head in against the wall trying to run the ball. Get those receivers, spread them out, and just use them as your run game and just work it down the field. I would love to see something like that, but it's going to be a challenge.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to this game, this matchup. I mean, our run defense is going to get tested again. And I'd be remiss, we didn't really even get him his due. Mozzie Smith played his best game since he's been a Dallas Cowboy last week. He was behind the line of scrimmage. He was not moving. That's kind of the Mozzie Smith that we need to see.
Well, we need that consistency. And that's what we need. Mozzie, you had a good game, but don't be one of those one-hit wonder games. We need you to be consistent, Mozzie, because we put some money in you. And this is, this your opportunity this season right here with everybody that went down. A lot of players went down. See, Pittsburgh would not be 4-0 without their defense. Their defense is the only reason they're 4-0. Their offense is like ours. Can't score jack.
They're struggling a little bit.
They can't buy a touchdown at a dollar store. I mean, and Fields right now, they think, Fields is the one for Pittsburgh. No, it ain't Fields. It's your defense that's keeping you game, and your field goal kicker who's getting those field goals when y'all get within range. Now, we're going to have a challenge against the defense, but if our offensive coordinator says, We know Watts is going to be a damn beast out there. Let's get that ball out in the flats quicker. Let's get that ball between the linebackers quicker. Let's to change it up and not always go to Lamb. Bring Dalvin Cook in there to give us a better opportunity. Bring Flournoy in off the bench and put him in there. Put all the weapons that we got out there against Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh, because we're going to need them. And the offensive coordinator needs to form his game plan around the Steelers' weaknesses, not just going with the same old vanilla what we're doing. Form it around Pittsburgh's weaknesses, and we can find a way through that. If we score 30 points, we win this game.
Oh, easily. I don't know if we'll score 30. I think it'll be in the 20s, but yeah.
But if we can score 30, we win this game. But the ball's got to come out quick, Dak, and you can't bring it out quick and try to take a chance and throw an interception. I'm going to be at that game. My brother's going to be at that game. Now, we're going to be sitting on the opposite sides, of course. So I'm going to be on the Dallas side. We're going to get together before the game. We're going to get together after the game. And I hope
no talking during the game. No friendship during the game.
And Kason, my friend Kason, who was training Flournoy, Kason said that Flournoy was sending him tickets and airfare and stuff. So hopefully we get a chance to hook up at the game. I'm going to take the 2 jerseys I got of his training camp, number 18, and see if he'll sign them for me. But I really hope that our offensive coordinator forms a game plan around Pittsburgh's secondary weaknesses and knowing that Watts is going to be strong on that line and get the ball out quick. If they do that, we got a good chance of winning.
No, they've got a shot. Let's get in chat. We've got some questions. If Cook isn't ready, what about Malik Davis getting a shot? I wouldn't have an issue with anyone. I don't think it's a matter of Cook being ready, because I think he is. I think it's more of they just not going to do it. I think it's a little bit of stubbornness. That's just my opinion. Do you agree or disagree?
Well, I just think that they use this time to let Cook learn the playbook and let him see what kind of shape he's in, because I haven't heard whether he was working out in the offseason or what.
It seemed like he was.
So I really think because they had already invested in Dowdle, Lipke, Zeke, and Vaughn. So they said, well, even though Cook is in, let's go with this first. And I think they wanted to get through at least about 3 games or so to see how it's turning out. But I do think now with the injuries, you're going to have to bring up some reserves for the defense. We got to have somebody on that line that's going to have. And DeMarvion
Overshown, unbelievable.
I think DeMarvion Overshown's presence is going to be huge against Pittsburgh, because he knows what we're losing on that defensive line, and he knows he's going to have to be a factor, and his speed alone will probably help us a lot. But Dalvin Cook has got to be in this game as an alternative. Otherwise, I just don't see what we expect to pull out of this.
Yeah, and I would say this, with Parsons and Tank out, Overshown, if I ever see him on the sidelines again, I'm going to be pissed off. I mean, he is a game changer.
He is.
And I think, with these guys out, I know, we talked about some of the guys they had, and there was a question, could the Cowboys reach out to Randy Gregory? I don't really think you want to go down that road. I think that ship has sailed. I'm just not a big fan of, kind of the outside noise and everything else. I just don't know if he'd be the answer. And again, it's going to be kind of short term, because I think Parsons will be back in a few weeks, and Tank eventually will be back in a few weeks. So I don't know. But what I think they do need to do, and I'd love to get your opinion on it, you guys in the chat, we've got some linebackers, and you got Overshown. I mean, he could get to that quarterback too. I mean, maybe they need to be a little more creative with some linebacker blitzes, or even, with our safeties. They've been struggling. Some of our safeties is maybe getting Donovan Wilson on that line of scrimmage and have him blitzing, and start creating pressures with your linebackers and safeties. And Overshown with his speed, I mean, unbelievable. So I'd like to see more of that with this defense. I mean, what's your thoughts on that in the chat, and your thoughts, Greg?
That'd be great on if the defense coordinator Mike Zimmer, if he's thinking that way, because the more pressure we put on Fields, the quicker Fields has got to get rid of the ball. I'd rather Fields have to get rid of the ball quicker than him getting time, because like I always said, even when I was playing football, if I'm a wide receiver and my quarterback has 4 seconds, cornerback, you don't know where I'm going. You just have to try to keep up. And as long as the quarterback's got plenty of time, he's going to find somebody open, because the cornerback doesn't know where you're going, but you do. And if we put pressure on Fields, it's going to force him to throw that ball quicker or try to run it. Now, we get in that backfield, we got to get him. We can't get in that backfield and let him escape because now he's got room to run because everybody's running down the field. So that would be a great game plan. Have Lewis to rush, even putting Overshown on the defensive end on several plays. With his speed, I know he can get around that offensive tackle, get around him and get in there. So that would be a game plan, but we don't know what Zimmer's coming up with. And I'm kind of surprised with Zimmer because it seems like Zimmer, I don't know if he's using old school defensive strategies, but until the Giants game, it wasn't working.
No. So, well, a lot of it is that defensive line was just getting pushed around. I mean,
and I don't know what Zimmer's going to come up with, but he better come up with something against Pittsburgh, man, because that is a big rivalry. And all the Super Bowls we played against Pittsburgh, that's why when you were talking about something about those two helmets together, it always comes back to me because of the Super Bowls we played. And we were the best teams back then. And you always wanted them to meet. And anytime we play them, it's just
cool. I don't know. Even when both teams sucked or one's good and the other one's bad, something about those helmets and just something about the tradition and the history, it resonates with me as a fan. And it's, I just think I just love when they play. And it's, it's only every 4 years for the most part. And it's every 8 years at the stadium, at one of our stadiums. But it is something. It's just something really cool to see. I don't know.
And with my brother being a diehard Pittsburgh, because he loves Pittsburgh like we love Dallas. And me and him growing up, going in the backyard with our Pittsburgh self-painted helmets and Dallas painted helmets and playing against each other and watching, it just brings it all home for me too.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's look at, the game. We talked about with Parsons and them out. Let's see, what else did I have going back to the Pittsburgh? Justin Fields. I watched Justin Fields play against Dallas when with the Bears.
Yeah,
I mean, I like Justin Fields. Yeah. I thought he got kind of a raw deal in Cleveland. He really didn't get any weapons, really didn't get any help, but he caused Dallas some problems with his legs. I remember the game, and we blew him out. Don't get me wrong, but Justin Fields, he had a decent game running the ball, and he had some passes and whatever. They better be ready for him because you kind of saw with Lamar Jackson. I'm not comparing the two, but Justin Fields, he's elusive, and they're going to have an answer for that because what you can't have is what happened in Baltimore where they're just controlling, and it even happened in the Giants game. They're just controlling the clock and controlling the ball.
Right.
And, they've got to find a way to make Justin Fields beat him with his arm, but also get enough pressure where he makes some mistakes because he will make some mistakes.
Yep. And that game we played against them in AT&T when they had the orange jerseys for a while there, I thought the Bears were going to beat us because that's how good he played. But that fumble and a few other interceptions, it turned the tide for us. But Justin, we got out of there with a against those boys because when we did blow them out, it was kind of late. And I thought those boys had an opportunity to beat us. But my cousin, Dexter, he's a diehard Bears fan. He's from Chicago. And I told him, because he was talking about Caleb is the truth. Caleb, I said, Dexter, look, I think what y'all did to Fields was wrong. Y'all didn't give Fields anything to play with. You didn't give him nothing. I said, all of a sudden, now you trade him, and then you get Caleb, and you surround Caleb with everybody. I said, Phil, all you had to do was do that with Fields. But now you surround Caleb with everybody, and you swear it was Fields' problem. It wasn't Fields' problem. Y'all got rid of him prematurely, and you shouldn't have. Pittsburgh, I don't think, is the right team for him because he doesn't have the offensive weapons he needs, which hopefully will fare well for us. But I think if we keep him in the pocket and put pressure on him, I think we're going to take this game because all we have to worry about now is scoring. And if our offense can score 28, 30 points, we win this game. We win this game. I think last time we were in Pittsburgh, if my recollection is correct, we won. I know when they played in AT&T, they beat us.
We won. That was Zeke's, I think, rookie year. We won right at the end. We won.
And then in AT&T, my brother went to that game, and I couldn't make it to that game with him. And Pittsburgh won that game. But we beat him in Pittsburgh. I'm hoping we do the same thing, man. I really do. But we got to load up off that practice squad and then get Dalvin Cook in there and bring Flournoy off the bench and get a different offensive scheme. And I think we can do this, man. I think we can do it.
Well, the thing they got, Pittsburgh's defense is ranked number 1 right now. They're only giving up 229 yards a game, which is by far better than the second place when you do yards per game. The crazy thing is the NFC East, which is always sometimes, the beast of the East. The Eagles' defense is near the bottom. Dallas's defense is near the bottom. Washington's defense is near the bottom. The Giants actually they're right in the middle of the pack, but they're still at 311 yards a game. The Eagles are 340, 339 points. Dallas is 355. And I mean, where's the defense in the NFC East has been non-existent. So we have got to get this defense back, at least a respectability. Some of the numbers are a little bit skewed. And then when you look at the offense side of the ball, you've got, the East is near the top. You got the Eagles near the top. You got Washington. You got the Cowboys. It's been a little bit of a flip. And then I'm trying to find the Steelers offense, and they're
near
the bottom. I mean, they're only averaging 289 yards a game. So it's like you said, they're winning with some efficiencies, but really on the backs of their defense. So
on the backs of defense,
Cowboys offense to do something, because the Steelers offense, they should be able to keep them contained. Hopefully.
Yes. And if our offense steps up and starts scoring points, the Pittsburgh game would be over by the third quarter. But if our offense isn't scoring, the odds are the win is in Pittsburgh's favor, because now you look at the people Pittsburgh played now, with the exception of Atlanta. I think Atlanta's got a real good team, a real good team. But Kirk Cousins is the kryptonite on decision making, and he's not consistent. If he was consistent, he wins that game against Pittsburgh. But their defense is held up, despite who they've been playing. Their defense is held up. The offense hasn't been winning those games. Field goal kicker, and then a touchdown here or a mistake by the other team. But if we score on average like we're accustomed to, we win this game. That's why I'm hoping we come with a little different game plan. And it won't be an upset if we beat Pittsburgh, because to me, we should be beating Pittsburgh. We lose to Pittsburgh in a close scoring game. Our offense is the problem. That means our defense is learning. Our defense is kicking up, even with the deficiencies and the injuries. If we can't score as much as we need to, then our offense needs to go back and go to school and get on the drawing board.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, looking at the NFL schedule today, and then we're going to get into some more Cowboy stuff, but let's just we're going to change it up a little bit. Focus on the East. You've got the nemesis to the Eagles, which is Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's absolutely embarrassed them the last few times they've played, especially in the playoffs. I mean, Baker Mayfield annihilated the Eagles, single-handedly annihilated. Now you've got the Eagles, terrible injury with Devontae Smith. I mean, you never want to see any player get knocked out cold like that. And then another player, there was a pileup because of the ball, and I think he got hit again. So hopefully he gets well soon, because you just don't want to see that. But head injuries are nothing to play with. You got A.J. Brown out. You've got, I think someone in the chat even said, Lane Johnson out. They're going to have their hands full down in Tampa. Now, what I will tell you, living in Tampa, living in Florida, and you saw it in the Miami game, you saw Miami guys struggling with the heat and humidity. Since this hurricane passed through, the humidity has been out of control. I'm talking about, I went out and had to rake some leaves I was just drenched in sweat. So, I mean, the Eagles had better have been hydrating all week, because it is going to be steamy. There's a chance of rain, which is going to make it even more steamy. So it's going to be interesting to see how that game plays out. You look at Philadelphia with the injuries they have. Are they the better team than the Bucs? The Bucs coming off, bad loss, that against Denver, which Denver's been the Achilles heel to a few teams, Dallas being one of them for whatever reason. I think they're the Achilles heel to Tampa as well. But what's your thoughts of, you look at the Philly game, you look at Washington going up against the Cardinals, and the Cardinals got that Kyler Murray, and you got Harrison Jr., and they've been putting up some points. dare say at the end of the day, there could be a three-way tie for first place in the NFC East. Would anyone ever imagine that could be possible after what we saw with the Ravens?
Well, and Kyler Murray is like at a 98% quarterback rating.
Hey, hold on one second. Do we got a man from Coconut Creek? That's my hometown. I went to Coconut Creek High School. I just want to give a shout out. If my man's from Coconut Creek, Florida, much love for that. But anyway, go ahead, Greg.
Roberto, yes. I hope it doesn't rain, because I think if it does rain, it's going to favor Philadelphia for some strange reason. I hope it doesn't rain. I hope they have a nice dry field, at least dry enough so Baker can wear them out. But Philadelphia is still a little dangerous, but with those players that are out that you mentioned, I don't see it. I don't see them pulling this out because that is their bread and butter. And Hurts can't do it by itself. Now, I know they went in the New Orleans and shocked them, because that blew my mind. I thought New Orleans would blow them out. I don't know what the hell's going on with them. But they had the players they needed. A la A.J. Brown wasn't there. But with all those players out in this game, this should be a good, easy game for the Buccaneers. And the Cardinals, I expect the Cardinals. It might be a good game to start off, but I expect the Cardinals to just blast Washington and show everybody that last week what Washington did was good, because Daniels came out and Daniels kept saying, let's go for it, in spite of the coach who wouldn't have gone for it those 3 different times, and then they got the first down, and show everybody, Washington, you are who we thought you were after they played the Cardinals. So it could be a 3-way tie. We win today. Now we start to show that those early losses don't really mean as much, because this means we're growing. We're getting our act together. We're now picking up speed. We started off slow. These other teams are having some problems. So it looks like we can go ahead and start making a run. I expect us to make a run after this Giants game. I just want to get our players back. And, one more thing about this. I know you know how I am about D-Law. Yeah. And I saw D-Law when he was walking off the field going to the locker room. And when they showed a close-up, all I can think when I saw D-Law, and D-Law, I love what you've done for the Dallas Cowboys. I love what you bring the pre-game, because you do hype these guys up and you let them know how serious it is to win. And I know how hungry you are. But D-Law, if if Jerry Jones decides to trade you for somebody, I salute you and I'll move on, because I just don't see the effectiveness on the defensive end from you that we need, as you should be the captain of the defense. I don't see that production. I just don't. So
I respectfully disagree, and I want to put it on record. I wholeheartedly disagree with you. I think he does a lot of this. I mean, he's never been a sack machine, but he's great against the run. And he does a lot of, he eats up blockers. He does a lot of dirty work. But anyway, go ahead, Greg.
Yeah. But those 2 games,
fans, we have different perspectives.
Yeah.
Not that one's right and one's wrong. It's your eyes see something, my eyes see something, right. And it's a great conversation.
But those 2 games that we lost, the Saints and the Ravens, I should have been hearing D-Law, and I didn't. I didn't hear it. And then when he got hurt in this game, I was like, I ain't seen him doing much against the Giants anyway, so I don't, that one ain't hurt me. But Parsons was the one that got my attention. I was like, oh, man, we can't afford Parsons to be out, because that's our Energizer Bunny. And if Parsons out, somebody's got to really step up. But it's interesting, because now we get to see just who really wants it. Now that Parsons and D-Law will be out a couple of games. And sometimes there's a diamond in the rough that nobody saw on the bench. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Roberto, too, just Lions. I was Coconut Creek Parkway and Lions Road, the neighborhood right across from Coconut Creek High School. That's where I grew up from middle school until I moved up to Tampa. I love Coconut Creek. I still get down there, so I'll give you a holler when I was at the Coconut Creek Hard Rock a couple weeks ago, but mainly go to the one down in Hollywood. That's more fun. But anyway, looking at, going through some of the chat, Zach Martin, D-Law, I think both of them. Zach Martin I think this is their last year. Mm-hmm. I think more probably Zach Martin maybe than D-Law, but Zach Martin, he just hasn't been at the he's still great, don't get me wrong, but he's just not been, he hasn't been the Zach Martin that we know and love. And the thing with the Eagles looking at this game, turnover machine. I mean, they are negative. They're at the bottom. The only team worse than them in turnovers is the Titans. That's going to be the problem with Philly, is they're just a turnover machine. And until they get that right, they got the running game with Barkley. Barkley's done a phenomenal job. If he stays healthy, that could be the signing of the year. I mean, really, when you look at it, and a lot of people are against the signing, but Jalen Hurts and the turnovers just continue to happen. And when you're thin at receiver and you got your center out and you're going to start rushing, and now you're throwing to some guys that you're not really trusting as much, it's going to be interesting to see if Jalen Hurts goes back to using his legs, because he really doesn't use his legs that much as he did in his early seasons or before he got the contract. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I think, Washington, I love Jaden Daniels. I think he's done it. That was a nice game. Pump the brakes a little bit. No, let's not throw him in the Hall of Fame. I mean, they did, just the game before, they couldn't get a touchdown against the Giants, like I said previously. But, you're seeing these teams get better. And what I would say, with these Cowboys, and I've kind of been talking about it, is they're going to benefit from these battles. Yeah. And what I said before the season, I want to see this team get battle tested. I want to see them face adversity. I want to see them have tough losses. I want to see them have to dig down for tough wins. Because if you look at the way the Cowboys been the last 2 years, blow a team out, get blown out. Yeah. Blow a team out, get blown. So then they cruise to 12-5. They cruise to 12-5. They cruise to 12-5. I wouldn't mind if they're 10-7. I wouldn't mind if they're 11-6 if they're getting battle tested. That is the key. And I think these games that you're seeing with the Cowboys, they're going to pay dividends in the end. They're going to have to battle. Washington being better is a good thing. Eagles being good is a good thing. The Giants, you can say what you want about the Giants. They're a better football team this year than they were last year. And all these things are going to pay off. You're looking at the tough schedule. They got to play Pittsburgh. They got to play Detroit. Then they've got the 49ers. They got to play Philadelphia. They got, they've got this tough run ahead, and that's going to define this team. And I told everyone, don't get too high and don't get too low. Just kind of let things play out for about 8 to 10 weeks. And then you're going to start seeing how this team, what they're really capable of, because this is a team, they put everything in on the draft. They put everything in on their young guys. This is a team that has to get better as the year goes on if they're going to be something. If you don't see this team getting better, if you don't see the line getting better, you don't see the defense in the secondary and stuff where they in the defensive line where they got young. There's 5 guys, rookies that are contributing on this team. Throw Overshown in there, was hurt. You're talking about 6. You're going to need those guys to get better and better as the year goes on. That's how you're going to know if this team is legit or not. It is not going to be by one game.
No, and that's why those 2 losses, horrific losses, early within the first 3 games is okay, because it's real early in the season. And they got punched in the mouth and punched in the ass, so that now they can, and early, they got it done early. So now they got plenty time to recover from that and realize that that sting means something, and then correct it. And the fact that they got some injuries, we got a chance to see some of these players that normally wouldn't be coming in as much, to see who's really hungry, because I want to see who's coming off that bench that's really hungry. Overshown has shown us, I'm hungry. Aruaway, he showed us, I'm hungry. I'm glad you got me off the practice squad. So these players that are going to have to step it up, obviously they're going to come in maybe with a little bit more motivation and maybe just a teeny bit more speed too, because they're younger. So it might be a blessing for us to see all this. But the fact that we got the injuries early, the fact that we got those big kick in the butt losses early, gives us all this time to recover, improve, and see what we actually have on the bench. And we still haven't used Flournoy. We still haven't used Dalvin Cook, and we still got people that we haven't activated yet. So, man, it looks promising for us. The Giants game proved that we've learned something, because the Giants offense is trash, but their defense is decent. So it looks like we've done a little something. Now let's see what we learned from this, and now let's see where we go in this Pittsburgh game. Because if we put it all together in this Pittsburgh game, now we're starting to get it.
No, absolutely. And just a quick shout out to Law Nation Sports, my man Law. I had the honor to meet him a couple times at the games. We always talked about trying to meet up, try and get on the show. Love to have you on. If you're an early bird like us old guys here, come on a Sunday morning. We'd love to have you. Or obviously with Kelly and I, but we definitely got to link up. Law Nation, everyone subscribe to him. Obviously, if you don't know Law Nation Sports, you've been hiding under a rock. I just love the passion that he has for the Cowboys. He's got probably the best voice in the business on top of that. And, he's doing great, huge things for the Cowboys. So definitely an honor for him to stop by the cave and check things out. But anyway. but yeah, it's definitely awesome. And yeah, the whole chat knows what's up with Law. So it's cool to have him in. Cool to definitely have him in. But yeah, to your point, the teams, you need to see this team getting better and better and better. It's a process. And what I like about this team is they're not turnover machines. Because I don't know if you can correct that. Like Philly, turn the ball over constantly. How many times are you going to turn the ball over? And it's gonna hurt them in the end.
Yeah.
Because the 1 year with Dallas when Dak had that one odd year where and just turnovers just seem to come in bunches. That's it. What I'm seeing from Philly, and I'm just telling this about Philly, and I know there's some Philly fans in here, there is something brewing with that team between Sirianni and either Hurts, the GM. There's something there because something just don't seem right with them. I think they're on the verge of just having an internal breakdown. I don't know. It's just very odd the way they're internally with the coach, and then he didn't after the one hard loss, he didn't even talk to the team. Is that he let Hurts do it, and then Hurts has made some comments about him. There's just something funky going on between those guys. It's going to be interesting down in Tampa. If they get waxed in Tampa, watch out. That's mark my words. Watch out. We'll see what happens. Tampa's defense hasn't been the best, so that could be an opportunity for them to just hammer them with Barkley, and obviously if they get Hurts running the ball, I think they're going to struggle throwing the ball against them, but we'll see what happens.
Well, there's a potential that this could be Sirianni's last season with Philly. Sirianni, the problem with Sirianni is I think he's getting desperate now in his decision making, and when he's getting desperate in his decision making and throwing his offensive coordinator and people under the bus with these sly remarks, it's telling you that he's getting desperate and he's getting worried and he's looking over his shoulder. And when you start to do that, you're not focusing on the game plan as much, and you're not remembering what got you to those winning ways. Now you're worrying about your job, and you got your internal disputes with your quarterback possibly. And I think I don't think Hurts is all that happy with Sirianni.
I don't think he respects him personally.
And I think if they don't make the playoffs this year, Sirianni's probably gone. But Hurts and this game they got today, even with Tampa Bay's not so consistent defense, I don't see Tampa Bay losing this game because all of their weapons for Philadelphia is gone. They're going to be relying on Dallas Goedert a lot. They're going to be relying on him a lot, and they're going to see what they have with these guys stepping up in the receiver game. But their running back game situation isn't all that awesome either. Otherwise, you wouldn't have to worry about Devontae Smith and AJ Brown being there, so you could throw the ball to them all the time. So Philly's in trouble. But if it rains, I think it benefits Philly. I really do.
Yeah, no, it would. It would. And it's supposed to rain, a chance of rain, but it's that Florida. You live in Florida. It's going to be like 15 minutes and be gone. But what it's going to bring is the humidity. It's going to be so much. And I'm telling you, watch guys with cramps. Watch guys. We saw it in the Miami game. Guys running down. Even Miami players.
Yeah.
The Miami players were having issues with it, and they train and practice in it, all the time. So, but you saw the big DN for Virginia Tech. He had to go in and get an IV.
Mm-hmm.
He missed a couple series, which he was wrecking havoc in there. So, it can impact the game, and you don't want to get one of these guys going. So, it'll be interesting to see. Philly has the best GM in the NFL. Didn't he win like one Super Bowl? I would maybe throw it over to Kansas City.
I'd
throw it over to Kansas City if I was talking about the best GM in football. They seem to keep getting talent and winning Super Bowls. I don't know if I'd be throwing I don't think I'd be throwing my man up in Philly as the best GM in football. But
Yeah,
that's
Philly ain't even got the best Philly cheesesteaks. I've been to Philly and I went to a place supposed to be the best Philly cheesesteaks. I can make that at home.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Philly's just, I've been there a few times. I like the people there. Most of the people, some people are idiots, but I mean, you probably have that in every city. So I don't want to do that. So anyway, so Barkley should have more yards than any. I mean, he should have more yards than any running back in the NFL. He's the highest paid running back in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Should have, or one of the highest paid. I think McCaffrey's ahead of him, but McCaffrey's hurt, so he's out. So he's one of the highest paid running backs in the NFL. He's supposed to have that. So
and
anyway,
that's why if it rains, Philly has an advantage because of Barkley.
Yeah.
If any Giants fans are out here, or any of you know Giants fans, give them a big thank you from me for getting rid of Barkley and not getting a quarterback. Thank you, New York Giants. I really appreciate it.
Well, let's talk on another topic. I mean, you're seeing Bland practicing. Obviously Carson was out. I don't know if is Carson going to be out this Sunday. I hope not.
Yeah, I don't
even though he's
playing.
A rookie, and they were picking on him too a little bit. The other guys got picked on a lot against the Giants. But I mean, Bland's on the verge of being back. But I mean, how bad do they need DaRon Bland back in that secondary?
Well, I don't see Carson coming back at least for maybe the next 2 games before they start talking because of his shoulder. Bland practicing now. Bland wants to get out there because Bland sees what they're missing and making these jumps on the ball and everything else. When Bland comes back, oh my goodness. And then Carson comes back, oh my goodness. Our secondary is going to be off the chain. Our secondary is trying to do the best they can right now to hold it up. To me, they mimic Cooper Rush, how consistent Cooper Rush. Cooper Rush isn't going to come in there and lights out and win the game for you. He's not going to lose it. And our secondary got kind of torched against the Giants, but I think our secondary is doing the best they can.
But it was one side got torched, to be fair. It was our other side of the cornerback.
But they're doing enough to hold us, keep us there, so we can win the game. And offense, if they do what they need to do, that secondary can't kill us. And against Fields, I think we'll be decent. But Bland coming back, and now we're still early in the season. And Carson's injury early in the season. D-Law, Parsons early in the season. Man, I can see these guys recovering and coming back, and we're back to full squad while all the other teams are experiencing the same issues. So we got a lot to look forward to, but I can't wait to Bland come out. I just don't want Bland to prematurely come back maybe a game too soon because he feels desperate and Dallas feels desperate, because then that'll set him back some. Let him come back when he's ready.
Yeah, I think I just have this feeling maybe Detroit, but more than likely after the bye, because I think it really depends a lot on this game. I think a lot of people had Dallas 3-3, 4-2 after, going into the bye week. I just had, a lot of people, that was kind of where they thought. I think Dallas beats Pittsburgh. I think they're going to be a little bit cautious with Bland, right? You got to think long term. You got to think of long term. You don't want to do that. So it'll be interesting. Hey, what thoughts on Jordan Lewis? I think he's been solid. I think he's been solid, right?
Yeah, Jordan Lewis is solid. No issues with Jordan Lewis that I'm. Last year I had some concerns, not because of Jordan Lewis, but because we were playing him at linebacker so much, and he had tried to fill a gap that he can't fill with his small frame. But Jordan Lewis is fine. I don't have any issues with Jordan Lewis. He's playing a good game. And I just want to see these rookies, these folks that we put stepping up. I just want to see them try to hold the ground, especially against Pittsburgh. Because we beat Pittsburgh and we beat Detroit, and we go into that bye. We come out that bye, we're going to be healthy, and we're going to be ready to go because we got Detroit at home. So,
that could be, we haven't, do we dare say that you could lose 4 straight at home?
Yeah, it's possible, but anything's possible. It's anything possible, but because we lost those 2 so ugly at home early.
3. I'm including the Packer game too.
Well, yeah, in the Packer game, but I think that the team realizes, damn, we got our ass whooped, and now let's make sure that doesn't happen at home again. Because I don't see where the team is looking defeated and they're letting the media get to them. They're not doing that. I think the team learned from that. And I think Zimmer, of all people, is really sitting down saying, man, I better really rethink what I'm doing. Because after that Saints game, it was a fluke, I think. To him, he's thinking.
Yeah.
Then after that Ravens game, they dominated us until the last quarter when they kind of gave up a little. I think he's like, man, what the hell am I doing? The Giants game, he may think he's gotten it together a little bit, but you can't really say too much about that because the Giants offense is trash. You know, you got Malik, but Daniels can't hit Malik all the time.
Yeah.
You know, the Giants defense is better for the Giants than their offense. So the Pittsburgh game is going to prove whether Zimmer woke up and he got it, or whether we're still in that learning process, because there's no way we get blown out in Pittsburgh. If that happens, the house of cards is falling.
Yeah, that'd be devastating because it would just be another, be 3. I'm going to say the Ravens one was a blowout only because it just, I know I love the battle the team quit. I mean, that made me feel a little bit better that at least they didn't, they could have easily rolled over and been done, but they at least had some fight in there. But the game was never close. The game was never close. It looks nice on the scorecard, but it really didn't mean anything. So I just think that, we'll see how it works, but getting Bland back would be a huge piece to that puzzle. Obviously, you're still going to be without Tank. You're going to be without Parsons a little bit. But I think if they can get creative, I think they can get some pass rush to get them to survive. Looking ahead of their schedule, obviously we talked about with Detroit after Pittsburgh, they're going to have to split these or obviously win both would be great. They can't lose both. I mean, losing both would be devastating. So we'll see what happens. One quick thing, obviously make sure you guys hit that subscribe, like, and share. If you're hanging out with us in the cave right now, just hit that thumbs up. If you're watching over on Twitter, which I know a bunch of you guys do, we do appreciate it. But at some point, slide over to YouTube and just hit that subscribe, hit the like if you haven't already. Then you can go back over to Twitter and watch us. That's fine. But that would be a big help to the channel. The other thing is you see that thing in the middle, Feed Your Fandom autograph app. It is co-founded by Tom Brady. The Cowboys Cave's a partner with them, and it's been a great partnership. We put some of our videos and stuff on there. It's basically taking all of the social media feeds and putting into one app and following your favorite team, whether it be the Cowboys, the Eagles, the Giants, Washington, the Hurricanes, Georgia, whichever it is, and you gain points. And when you gain those points, you get rewards. You can also buy tickets with no fees. So you can get tickets without any fees on it, save yourself a lot of money rather than going to SeatGeek and these others. You can download it. It's a free app. Just put Mike Tag as a code. There's a QR code there that you can scan, or just go to cowboyscave.com. It's right on my homepage. Click that. It'll take you right to it. Again, make sure you put Mike Tag in there. They're also giving away, they did CeeDee Lamb. The next one is a framed autographed jersey of Dak Prescott. That's in the hopper right now. And they do it for all other teams. So if you're a Philly fan, there's a giveaway for them. If you're Giants, there's a giveaway for that. So take a minute and download that. It helps the cave. It shows them that we carry some weight, but also it's a badass app, man. It's something you definitely want to use. So definitely check it out. Check that out. And again, subscribe, like, and share. Let's go through the chat again.
Carl Smith. Yeah, you're right. I probably should have went to the hood in Philly and got a real cheesesteak. And that's probably where the real cheesesteaks are. But, being a Cowboys fan, I like to be in gear everywhere I go. And I go to the hood to get a Philly cheesesteak. I'm probably going to get a little bit more than what I bargained for out there. And I don't want to have to deal with that. But Dak, somebody mentioned down there, where is it? Somebody mentioned in the chat that because of the upcoming schedule, because, we got Pittsburgh, got the Lions, and then after that, we go to 49ers, and then we go to, who is it after that? We go to the Falcons. You're right. Dak's going to have to be consistent. Now, this is where, in spite of our defense, this is where Dak has really got to shine. These next 4 games, Dak has got to be the field general. Because if Dak isn't the field general, we can't rely on our defense and mishaps by the other team to win. Dak, you got the 49ers again this year. 49ers are vulnerable this year. You got the Falcons, which are playing good. You got the Lions. You got Pittsburgh. Dak, you want to shut the naysayers down about your big purse that you got? Go in these 4 games and play one of your best games ever consistently on offense, and you will shut them down because the defense is going to try to do their best. But this is where I have to say, Dak, we really need you in these next 4 games to step it up and just lights out. Because in spite of the defense doing what they do, if the offense ain't scoring, it's not going to help us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's unfortunate. It's a lot on his shoulders, but you're the high paid quarterback and the running game's not going. So you're going to have to get it going. You're going to have to get it going. And, I believe in Dak Prescott. I think, they've got to get him a little bit of help with the running game. I mean, It's a lot to ask. I mean, you go back to the years of, Dan Marino, no running game. I mean, you can only do so much. If you don't have a running game starts it all. I mean,
it does.
I don't know if I want to see Dak run more. What I'd like to see, I don't want to see design runs, but I think if he gets opportunity, I think he needs to be able to just run for that first down slide and live to play another day. And that's what I would say with Dak Prescott. And I would say with Kid Cowboy, I believe in Dak Prescott. I don't really care for you because you wish injuries upon a player, and I don't care if it's a Cowboy, Eagle, or whatever. That's why I kind of don't listen to you. So I don't even know why you're subscribed to the channel. But if you want to subscribe, it's fine. But you're not my cup of tea. It's no offense. Everyone has their own. But when I hear people talking about you wish a guy breaks his ankle and this and that, it's just and I would even say that about the Eagles. As much as I don't like the Eagles, I don't want to see any player get hurt. I mean, these guys are professionals. These guys have families. These guys have lives. I've seen players that can barely walk after gone. You've seen players commit suicide from all the CTE issues and this and that. So I'm not going to be one to wish injuries on any player. If that's your style, that's your style, but it's just not mine. So I really don't have much to even comment, but you did get a minute out of my time. So congratulations.
But, is Kid Cowboy even a Cowboy fan?
No, you have the one.
See, that explains it all. That explains. See, I said something in my hype video this weekend. I say it all the time.
Yeah.
You hater, you continue to follow us more than you follow your own team. You're like Stephen A. Smith. You follow us more. If you didn't know any better, you wouldn't even know the Pittsburgh Steelers was Stephen A. Smith's team. Because he follows us. When you are the brand that we are, with the success we've had, I don't care how long you say it's been, you can't take them away. And if your team doesn't have one, then what are you talking about? So you follow us. When you are that good, that dynamic, that brilliant, that shining star that everybody sees, you follow us more than you follow your own team. You could be on any podcast this morning following your team, but you decided to follow us. And when that hate is so deep and entrenched for our team the way it is, there's some light back there for us and some jealousy. So continue to follow us. But when you start talking about players getting hurt,
well, that's why. I mean, I know a lot of Cowboy fans that don't like Dak Prescott, and it's fine. I mean, like I said, I'm a fan of the star. If Dak Prescott wasn't on the team and our quarterback was Trey Lance or it was Cooper Rush, that's my guy. That's the way I am. I mean, unfortunately, I've lived it, but I will never wish injury on anybody, especially Dallas Cowboy, but any player in the NFL. But I support the stars. Just like I was telling this story of when Emmitt Smith, when he went to now I'm a huge Emmitt Smith. I mean, Emmitt Smith's my guy, you know, and I love Emmitt Smith. But when he went to the Cardinals, he came to Texas Stadium, and I wanted punishment on Emmitt Smith. I didn't want him to get any yards. I didn't want him to get hurt, and he ended up separating his shoulder, Roy Williams. But when the Cowboys stuffed him, I was jumping out of my seat because I didn't want him to get the better. I'm a Cowboy. I didn't want him to get the better of us that day. Still love Emmitt Smith. Still got all the stuff up there. But when you leave, the star stays with me. And that's why I'm so happy that Aikman, I know there was rumors of, him going another, that would have broke my heart.
That would have.
Irvin, if he ever would have went to another team, that would crush me. That's why I don't like seeing our guys go to another team, but it's the football today, right? They all jump around. It's like when DeMarco Murray went to Philadelphia, it was nothing sweeter than to see him just kind of flame out. But I was happy to see him revive his career in Tennessee and have a couple good years. So that's the kind of thing. Anyway.
It's just, and I feel the same way that you feel. It's like when Chris Canty left us. When several players, highlight players, when they left us on their own fruition, I kind of felt the same way. I didn't want them to get hurt, but I wanted us to always get the better of their team. Now, when Emmitt's situation, I didn't like the fact that Emmett was gone because Jerry let him go.
Yeah.
Jerry let him go. It ain't like Emmett said, I want out of here. Jerry let
Well, I
Emmett
think
go.
that's when they had Parcells. I think they were kind of, Parcells wanted his identity. You know what I mean? I think, that's just
but it wasn't Emmett saying, I want out of here. I want out of here. No. Yeah. And so that was a different thing.
No, absolutely. And I would say the thing too about all these guys, I mean, people worry about other people's money too much. I'm just going to say this. I don't worry about what any football player makes. I could care less.
That's right.
It doesn't matter. Dak Prescott's the highest paid guy because that's his contract's up.
Right.
No one, where's all the hate on Trevor Lawrence? $57 million, right? Isn't he there? Tua. I mean, these quarterbacks are getting paid. That's what they get paid. Are you going to take less in your job? If you got to, I ain't taking less in my job. I promise you that, my friend. I'm getting paid what the market bears, and the market bears. Blame the owners.
That's right.
Why do the owners always get a pass? Why do the owners always get a pass? They're the ones paying these guys. They ain't the players. I mean, all the owners said, hey, man, we're only going to pay quarterbacks $40 million. That's where we're topping off at. Take it or leave it. None of the owners have the balls to do it. But if the quarterback's making $60 million, I damn well assure you the owners are making 10 times that, 20 times that, 30 times that. So don't give a shit about what the players make. I'm a fan of the players. I don't look at their contracts. I could care less who the highest paid guy is. Really don't matter.
I don't care. And, it just goes back to that old logic where the first person on any team that not everybody, most people are going to blame for losses is the quarterback. Dak gives us our best chance. And Dak didn't get blown out by the Saints. Dak didn't get blown out by Green Bay. Okay. You can debate the offense performance against the Ravens, but the defense, think about it, folks.
The defense gave up 8 of 10 possessions, touchdowns.
Green Bay, the Saints, Ravens, they beat the hell out of our defense. Defense. That's who they beat. Dak, they didn't beat Dak. Defense didn't hold those teams, and then offense didn't score. They beat our defense. Like they took like I said, they made us in AT&T. They made us go outside AT&T, get our own switch. They came in and whooped our behind, and then they threw the switch down on the 50-yard line when they walked out. That's what they did to our defense. But all you folks that always blame Dak is because you're not really watching the game. When you watch a game, all you see is quarterback. You don't study and say, okay, the defense what the hell is the defense doing? Oh, what is this doing? No, you don't. You just blame it on the quarterback. Dak, I'm glad you got your money. I wish you would have got it sooner. And if you'd have got it sooner, maybe Jerry would have had time to say, let's go get Henry. But I'm glad you got your money. And Michael, get your money. And I hope you'll get your money with us.
Well, the thing is, they all Greg is saying, and I've said it, there's plenty of blame to go around.
Yeah.
And it's not one guy. I mean, it's never one guy.
That's right.
It's never one guy. It's a team thing. I mean, there was a reason, Peyton Manning was viewed as a choker. I mean, Peyton Manning, all people. I mean, give me a break. 8 years in the NFL, his years in college. I remember him, Tennessee, Florida, could never beat Tennessee. You can't spell citrus without UT because that's where they always played because they couldn't beat Florida. I mean, Peyton Manning. And then when Peyton Manning leaves, who the hell was a quarterback for Tennessee? T. Martin won a national championship with Tennessee after Peyton Manning left. Was that Peyton Manning's fault or did whatever it was? Then he goes to Indianapolis. 2 Hall of Famers, Hall of Fame, Edgerrin James, Hall of Famer, Marvin Harrison, both young guys. And he even had Marshall Faulk at a point before they traded him.
Right. And
he could not get it done. And now, does he stink? He He had to get better around him. He had to get a better defense around him. You get Tony Dungy to come in with his defensive schemes and this and that. Next thing you know, he's winning a Super Bowl. It was the same thing when he went to Denver. They go get Von Miller. They go get this, and they get everything ready. So Heath Schuler was before Peyton. It was T. Martin. I'm 99% sure.
Yeah, Martin.
That's what it is, and it's a team game. Unfortunately, it's a team game. Guys are going to get too much of the blame. Guys are going to get too much of the credit. But the blame is going to go to Dak Prescott because of the contract he has. And maybe that's justified. If you're worried about the numbers and the money, then you got a reason to justify it. If not, everyone's got to step up. I mean, everyone's got to step up. And you got to have luck. I mean, look at the teams that end up going to the Super Bowl. Let's say they don't even win it. I mean, they create their own luck, so I'm never going to hate on them for it. But look at the Cowboys just can't even luck their way in.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. That's why I say there's got to be a curse or something because, look at the Cardinals the one year. Look at the Panthers the one year. I mean, some of these teams, Philadelphia created the opportunity, right? But your quarterback goes down. Nick Foles goes in. The defense is just getting hot and hot and hot. They go in and they win the Super Bowl. I mean, give them credit. But who the hell would think that's going to happen? And then you look at Flacco the one year. It's crazy. Some of these teams, you got to have so much. It's so hard to win. There's a reason why a good percentage of this league has never even seen a Super Bowl. And if you take the 1-1, it's probably over half.
Yep. And some of those teams that have never been to the Super Bowl, or never won a Super Bowl, their fans follow us all the time and talk about it. It's been a long time since we won one, but we got 5. And Jim Mora didn't like Peyton. Jim Mora hated Peyton. And if it was up to him, they would have traded Peyton. But the Indianapolis Colts knew he gives them their best chance to win. He gives them the best chance, and that's why they stuck with Peyton, and look how that turned out. And Prescott right now gives us our best chance to win. And I'm glad he signed, and I'm glad we're going to have him for another 4 years, and that is good because he gives us our best chance, and I don't see Prescott diminishing, getting like Ryan Leaf or something like that. So he gives us our best chance to win. I like that. I just want our defense to be much better. And all you Dak haters, why don't you stop and think about this? Those teams that have been to the Super Bowl the last 3 years or so, what have they done during the regular season in the front office to help them get there? They've always, during the season, somebody up there got their head on the swivel, a GM who's not the owner, who's not this, who's not this, head on the swivel during the season. Boom, let's go get him mid-season. Boom, let's go get him. Here's the trade deadline. Let's go get him. They went and got plug-and-play players to enhance what they already have, and it got them there. What did we do? Crickets. Because the owner is the GM / everybody else. You need a GM who focuses on those players outside to plug and play. Jerry's not doing that. Jerry still got that old mentality. We can keep this same team intact and eventually win the Super Bowl. Those days of having those teams where you got the same people for 10 years and eventually win, that's not going to work. You got to go out and get mercenaries. That's what Philly did. That's what Kansas City even did. Even though they got Tyreek, they went and got mercenaries. Detroit went and got mercenaries. All of them, they're getting mercenaries to take them to the next level during the season. So by the trade deadline, you got those enhancers you're picking up. We did nothing. And if we're going to continue to do nothing, we're not enhancing what we have and filling the gap where we need it as we go along. So that's what you really need to think about before you start putting the pressure on Dak. Think about what we're not doing in the management part that other teams are doing during the season.
Yeah. And again, I'm going to say, I'm not killing the roster of the Cowboys because I think the Cowboys they've had teams that should go to the Super Bowl. I mean, they've had talented teams, right? They've had talented teams. But I don't mind the criticism of Dak. I just don't like it when he's the only one being criticized.
Right.
Santana Moss, and someone asked, who's your favorite Cowboy that came from the U? I mean, Michael Irvin goes without saying, but I love underrated, two underrated Cowboys that went to that came from Miami that some people don't talk about enough. Darren Smith and Kevin Williams. Those are my two. And I've got a Kevin Williams, signed thing behind me. I've got Darren Smith. I mean, those are two of my favorite. Obviously, Jimmy Jones. I mean, Michael Irvin goes without saying for me. But what about you, Greg?
Same thing. To me, anybody that came from the U and went to Dallas, because even when I was a Miami fan, I've always been a Miami fan. But before any Miami people were coming to Dallas, when Michael Irvin, because imagine this, when Michael Irvin got drafted by the Cowboys, and I was down living in Homestead and I was stationed Air Force. You can imagine how crazy I went, knowing that one of my U is going to Dallas, and that's my team, the U. And then out of nowhere, it's like winning a $1 billion lottery. All of a sudden, Jerry Jones, until they talked about it, I didn't even know Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson had a relationship. I didn't even know about that. When I heard that he was hiring Jimmy Johnson, I said, wait a minute. You mean to tell me we getting Jimmy Johnson? And I remember telling my friend, Jimmy going to bring some of the players. He going to bring some of them players with him. And when he brought some of the players with him, and I said, we got Michael Irvin, we got Jimmy Johnson. I'm a Cowboys fan. I'm a Canes fan. Oh, my Lord, you just made it for me. And look how it turned out. Yeah. It turned out beautifully. So every Cane that went to Dallas, I was happy because they took the swag, they took that toughness, they took what it needed in the NFL that the NFL hadn't seen in a while. And when Jimmy Johnson made that blockbuster trade, it wasn't Jerry Jones, folks. It was Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson made that blockbuster trade. That sealed it. But when he left, that just went back to show me same old Jerry. Jerry. So Jerry,
we know Michael Irvin was there in '88. He's saying we got Michael Irvin, we got Jimmy Johnson. That's what he was saying.
We got Michael Irvin first. We got Michael first. And then Jimmy Johnson came on. And I remember, because I was down there, I remember the local news, Channel 10, when they showed Michael Irvin at his house, had little shorts on, sticking his head.
Like Green Bay wanted him. He said,
no, Super Bowl. I remember that. I remember all that.
Yeah, I remember, like, he talked about with Green Bay. He's like, don't go draft me, Green Bay. I ain't going up there. Nothing to do with no cold. But Michael Irvin, he talked about that. They go to the Super Bowl, and then he's like, the first game, he's like, whoa, we're in trouble. And he was one of, the thing with Michael Irvin, he was one of those guys when Jimmy Johnson arrived. I mean, Jimmy Johnson, was like a father figure, And Michael Irvin had a great father, but I'm just saying he was just one of those guys that really watched out for Michael Irvin. You can go back to the Canes. There was some stories, that Michael Irvin, one of the stories was when he got there, he was a freshman and they used to do hazing and the offensive lineman would try to steal his food tray, and Michael Irvin just beat the hell out of him. And he was crying like he thought he was going to get kicked off the team and this and that. And Jimmy Johnson brought him in the office and he said, look, man, he goes, as long as I'm coaching here, you always got a spot at the U. And I mean, but that was the fight. I mean, being 17 kid, you probably fighting for food every day. So I would never be trying to snatch no food from Michael, Michael Irvin. But when Jimmy Johnson got there, Michael Irvin went to him and he told him, he said, we got to change. You got guys that and Jimmy knew it, but they were near the end of the career and they're just talking about the paychecks and they're talking about just getting paid. And you had to change that whole culture within that team. And you saw all those young guys, and he brought a lot of Miami guys in. There was some that some people don't even know, but like Randy Shannon, I believe it was Randy Shannon and Rod Carter. One of them was on the Cowboys. I think Randy Shannon got drafted by the Cowboys. And I think Rod Carter came over from he was a undrafted free, but he brought a lot of Miami guys there that ended up cutting. But it was changing that culture because Miami just had that at that point. They had the swag. They had that culture that that he wanted to bring into Dallas and shake things up. But
that hunger.
It was. I mean, I loved those years, and like people talk about, man, Mike, you're just living in those 90 years. But hey, you know what? They were great years, and I always remember them fondly. It was just a special time, for the Cowboys because unlike you, Greg, I didn't get a chance to see the 70s. I was more 80s, so my memory of the 80s were they weren't very good teams. I mean,
they weren't. They weren't. But if you had a chance to see the 70s, Mike, you would have been like a pig in slop because I I love watching the Cowboys in the 70s, man, and listening to Pat Summerall and Dallas Cowboys. Touchdown, Dallas Cowboys. Man, Pat Summerall did it for me when he called.
Oh, I love Pat Summerall and John Madden.
Especially on the Redskins game. Pat Summerall called them Redskins game, and they playing in Dallas, Texas. And then the Starbuck throws the ball down to Drew Pearson. Touchdown, Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving Day against the Redskins. Man, 70s were it. That was it. And then the 80s, we had that lull. And then all of a sudden, I was like, well, where we going, Dallas? And then here come the 90s and Jimmy Johnson. And man, look, all you other team fans, I know you admire the Cowboys. You respect the Cowboys, but you'll never say it. If there's only what, let's say, Mike, 3-4 teams that have 5 Super Bowls or more.
Yeah.
3 teams, 5 Super Bowls or more. And like they say, you can never take them away. They don't expire. So when you have nothing to hit us with, it's like saying, well, you didn't tie your shoes. You know, something stupid it doesn't hurt us Cowboys, though. You don't see us coming back to I'm going to tell my mama what you said. We don't care. We don't care because we know you continue to follow us. You don't see us following Bengals. You don't see us following Philly. You don't see us following y'all talking smack. Game time we will, but we ain't following y'all. Y'all follow us. And we all got plenty jerseys if you ever want to convert.
Yeah. No. And I would say this on Russell Maryland. He did pan out. I mean, you're Russell Maryland was did the dirty work. I mean, that's what he was. He was never going to be, I mean, at the defense tackles, he was never going to be double-digit sacks and this, and it just wasn't his game. So, I mean, he was a very big part of that defensive line and that rotation. So, is he a Hall of Famer? No. And I guess if you're the number 1 pick overall, if you're not in the Hall of Fame, maybe it didn't pan out. I don't know. But, I mean, he was part of some Super Bowls. He was a big part of them getting their Super Bowl. So I don't know if necessarily he didn't pan out. I don't know if
he played his role. He played his role. He played his role. Without Russell Maryland and all the other players that played their role, because remember now, it's just like on the workforce. You don't always have to have everybody to be that top level worker. You need your most valuable workers, your most valuable players are the consistent bread and butter people. You're the ones you don't talk about the most, but they always get the job
done.
And
that's what we don't have enough of on this team. That's what I've always said on this team. We've got the stars, but you need those middle tier guys because you need the Tony Tolberts, right? You need the Russell Marylands. You need the Darren Smiths. You need the Brock Marions. You need those guys. And that's what I think is missing sometimes from this Cowboys team. Now, it could be there. Like I look at Overshown, and I'll give Ultra credit for it because he was preaching him last year, after the Cowboys draft. I never really watched Texas football, so I didn't know who Overshown was. But I mean, he was pounding the table for Overshown from the beginning. And Overshown is everything as good as advertised from what my man Ultra said. So yeah, Bill Bates is another guy goes without saying.
Oh yeah, Bill Bates is my man.
But looking, and when you're talking about some of these teams and what's missing from this Cowboys team, and that is, like we said, that is give me a Hunter Lipke. He could be one of those guys. That's what you really want to find. So, but I would say with Dak again, just kind of put a bow on it. Dak's he's a good quarterback. I mean, he's a top 5, top 6 quarterback. There's no mistake about it. Just like Tony Romo, I'm going to stay consistent in what I say about Tony Romo. Is Tony Romo a Hall of Famer? No. Should he be in the Ring of Honor? No. And will he end up in the Ring of Honor? He probably will. But he didn't win a Super Bowl. I'm sorry. If Ed Too Tall Jones is not in the Ring of Honor, Cornell Green's not in the Ring of Honor, Tony Romo shouldn't be in the Ring of Honor. I mean, quarterbacks then put Danny White in the Ring of Honor. Danny White got 3 straight NFC championships. Put him in the Ring of Honor. That's what I'm saying is with the, Dak Prescott, if he doesn't deliver a Super Bowl championship, it's disappointing. It's a disappointing career. You're judged by, look at Dan Marino, as great as Dan Marino, probably the best pure passer, that I've ever seen. He's never going to be in the same conversations with Montana, with Brady, with Mahomes, with Aikman, with Bradshaw, with guys who've won multiple Super Bowls, because a quarterback is judged by the rings. Yeah, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah. And you mentioned Danny White. I think Danny White is probably one of the biggest overseen players in doubt. He took us to NFC championships.
Yeah.
He just didn't. They didn't get over. But Danny White should most definitely. And you're right. I love Romo. I don't care what they say about Romo. I love Romo. But Danny White should be in the Ring of Honor before Romo. And if Danny White goes to the Ring of Honor, then okay, you put Romo in there, I'm not going to be upset. But then again, Ed Too Tall. I don't know if Mel Renfro is in the Ring of Honor.
Mel Renfro's in there.
Okay, and Cornell Green.
Tony Hill.
Players. Let me tell you, there was a lot of players from the 70s that I feel should be in the Hall of Fame, let alone the Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
And you put those folks in the Ring of Honor, okay, then you start talking to Tony Romos and all that. That's fine.
Yeah, Ring of Honor to me is the elite of the elite. It's not like, and I don't like not for nothing, but like Tampa Bay, I mean, they put Tony Dungy in their ring of, I mean, he didn't even win a Super Bowl for him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Tony Dungy didn't, I mean, he helped get that team back, which I definitely get.
Yeah.
But, the Buccaneers have some, go look at the Buccaneers Ring of Honor. I mean, it's like there's some guys in there that kind of make you shake your head. I just don't want the Ring of Honor to be that. And I think with Jerry Jones, the lack of success the Cowboys have had in Super Bowls the last 29 years, whatever it is, it shouldn't be flooded with that era. I mean, it should be flooded with the 90s and the 70s era because they're the ones who run. I mean, Ring of Honor to me is championship, the best of the best. I mean, and it doesn't have to be you're the best, but like a Moose Johnston to me, a Bill Bates, you could argue, you could say, hey man, he should be, they could be in the Ring of Honor, one of those, but it's always makes for an interesting conversation. And maybe they need to have another area where they honor certain players, but I don't know.
No, but but Jerry, I just think Jerry is stuck on this. He's only going to Ring of Honor people during his era. And the Dallas Cowboys, you go back from the beginning. That is an iconic organization that in the 70s, I lived through that. And I'm telling you, they don't go to that many Super Bowls and then win 2 without the majority of the people on that defense. First name basis people in the 70s that should be in the Ring of Honor, period. And they won Super Bowls and they went to multiple Super Bowls that they didn't win. You can't tell me that them guys in the 70s shouldn't be in a Ring of Honor. I think Jerry is specifically looking at people during his era.
His era. Yeah.
His era. And that's wrong because it is a travesty that those players from the 70s are not at a minimum in a Ring of Honor. It is a catastrophe that Too Tall Jones isn't in a Hall of Fame.
I can't. That's the one that will blow my mind till the day I die. I don't get it.
Ridiculous. Totally. But when you get different generations who didn't live during that period and they don't care to go back and reflect and see, all they look at is what's in front of them. That's why when it comes to the Hall of Fame, you got more first ballot Hall of Famers and second and third tier Hall of Famers going to the Hall of Fame now in the last, I want to say 15 years or so, which is ridiculous when you got all those players lined up and waiting before them that deserve to get in, and then they get under there under legendary or some other.
Oh, they get in when they're like Chuck Howley, poor guy. I mean, he's had dementia, he's had health issues, and he's not there.
It's crazy.
He's not there to appreciate it.
Even the guy for Denver Broncos, what was his name?
Randy Gradishar.
I watched Randy Gradishar play. That boy was a beast. And you mean to tell me you wait till this man is almost he's almost on his dying bed? It's ridiculous. And the sports writers who are the voters and all this, some like Peter King. Peter King, his card need to be taken away from him because what he did to Chris Carter, because Chris Carter wouldn't give him interviews. He came on Fox one time years ago and said, "I'll never vote for Chris Carter." Well, you didn't play, Peter King. You didn't rack up all the numbers that man racked up. He should have been in the Hall of Fame way before he finally got in there. And Peter King is sports writers like you that are straight trash. You never got hit. You probably didn't play Little League. And you're the ones that's voting for Hall of Famers. And that's disgusting. And then the era before you, Peter King, you don't even recognize those players. So all those sports writers.
No, I mean, that's when they bring their personal,
biases,
issues, bias to it, which isn't right. I just don't understand the Too Tall Jones. I mean, stack his numbers up against others. I mean, you know, you can't talk about the Cowboys. You can't talk about the NFL in the 70s and 80s and not mention Too Tall. I mean, go on the street and say, hey, man, you know Too Tall? I mean,
everybody knows.
90% of football fans are gonna just by saying his nickname are gonna know who he is. Yep. But
and
you know, hopefully that gets corrected, and you know, we'll see what happens. But I would just say, yeah, Darren Woodson not being in the Hall of Fame is ridiculous too.
He gonna get in there,
but I think he'll eventually. They don't like safeties unless you're obviously Ed Reed, Palomalu, I mean, Ronnie Lott. I mean, one of those guys, it's hard for some reason to get safeties in. But when you put John Lynch in and you put Leroy Butler in, you better damn put Darren Woodson in, because they're all from that same era. And Darren Woodson is as good or better than all those safeties that we just mentioned that are in the Hall of Fame. And they're all worthy of it. I'm not saying that they're not. But Darren Woodson should be right there, right there with him. But you know, if I look at if I'm being realistic, I mean, who deserves to be in the Ring of Honor that's a retired Dallas Cowboy now from the Jerry Jones era? I mean, DeMarcus Ware's in there. He got in there before at Too Tall Jones. Jason Witten.
Definitely going to be in there.
Is there anyone else? I mean,
I'd have to look at people during the Jimmy Johnson era in order for that to happen. But that's a good question.
Yeah.
That's a good question. But you know what's happening in the Hall of Fame, and I noticed this maybe about 10 years or so.
Well, he's in the Hall of Fame. He's in the Hall of Fame in the Ring of Honor. So
Darren Woodson would not even be considered for the Hall of Fame if it hadn't have been for people, players, and the media really talking about it. And it seems like that's what's happening lately. A lot of players that have been forgotten, somehow somebody in the media and other fans that are analysts, they're starting to bring their name up. Or they bring them onto a network and let them be an analyst. And then people keep talking about, one day you're going to be in this so-and-so. And then before you know it, there's a flurry around the voters about, that guy needs to be in there. For not Chris Carter going on to CBS Sports, I think it was CBS or Fox, after his career, and being on there for a long period of time as he did, I don't think he gets voted in the Hall of Fame when he did. Because those players that disappeared from football, the media, those voters don't even look back. They're not looking back and they're not thinking about them. The voters, they're like kids. What's the shiny penny in front of you? And then all of a sudden, people start talking about that person a lot in the media. Analysts start talking about them. They put them on the show, and all the other analysts are saying, like, when you play this so-and-so, one day you should be in the Hall of Fame, blah, blah, blah. Those are the ones that have started getting the attention. And then all of a sudden, the voters, it's easy pickings for the writers, because the voters, because they're like, oh, yeah, Darren Woodson, that's right. Let's vote for him. Instead of going back saying Too Tall Jones. These writers, if they're smart, they would go back to those eras. Look at the teams that were the dynasties in those eras, and then look at them and say who deserves to be in there. But they don't do that. They're like kids. They look at what's in front of them, the shiny penny, the new tricycle. They don't look at that preservation of it.
And that's what happens. It has to go back to the veterans guy. Charlie Waters, I'm glad we interviewed him on the show. I mean, how he's not in the Hall of Fame or the Cowboys Ring of Honor between him, and
that's a Jerry issue.
What?
All those that aren't in the Hall of Fame,
he's not going to.
It's a Jerry.
Cliff Harris and Charlie Waters are synonymous. I mean,
it's a Jerry issue.
Alvin Harper, no, I can't do that. I mean, Stepnoski's an interesting one. I mean, you could argue a Hall of Fame career. The other one I would say, which I didn't see his name mentioned, is Eric Williams. I mean, if you're putting Baselli in the Hall of Fame on a shortened injury career, you've got to think about Eric Williams as well. He was the only guy that I know that absolutely dominated Reggie White, and that's saying something. Reggie White probably one of the best. Oh, there's Eric Williams. He came down later. Barber, no, but I love Barber. Nate Newton, possibly. Everson Walls. The only thing that hurts me about Everson Walls, he went to the Giants and got a Super Bowl. So,
but he ain't even in. Everson Walls isn't in the Hall of Fame.
No, he should be in the Hall of Fame.
That is ridiculous. That is ridiculous. See, that's why I said I wish I lived in Texas. If I lived in Texas, because I'm right there, I would be everywhere I go. Any chance I got a chance to talk to the media or send in, I would be talking about this stuff. The Everson Walls, the Too Tall Jones, and them. I'll be talking about it so much. Eventually, somebody say, "Who is that crazy dude right there on the highway screaming at cars?" That's me, because these guys deserve to be in it. And Jerry, of all people, is the only reason they're not in the Ring of Honor.
Yeah, no,
That's ridiculous.
And the argument's always going to be, how is a guy a Hall of Famer if he's not even in your Ring of Honor? You know what I mean? That's what that's what people will come back to.
They can come. You know, you got to be your logic and intellect about these players and their accomplishments has to be deeper than just a Super Bowl, because there are a lot of players in there never won a Super Bowl. It's got to be deeper. You got to look at the numbers, look at what they did for the organization. And if you lived around to watch the 70s, and I don't mean watch in the 70s as an infant, I'm talking about as a teenager like myself, to watch the Dallas Cowboys during the 70s, you got some of the best memories of the Cowboys for a lifetime. And there are players on their first name basis that should be in a Ring of Honor at a minimum. Easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah. I'm going through the Ring of Honor now. Yeah, there's definitely some omissions. Let's look real quick. See who's in the Hall of Fame. See if I'm missing maybe if I said someone and I made a mistake. But let's see if there's Dallas Cowboys in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Let's see. You got Herb Adderley, Aikman, Larry Allen, we know, Lance Allworth, Gil Brandt. We even get credit for Harold Carmichael. He played for the Cowboys.
Yeah, he played with us, I think, a year, maybe two. He was not washed up, but he was doing the paycheck.
We took the Eagles guy. We made him a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Jerry, Tom Landry, Bob Lilly, T.O. I mean, they give, even if you played a few, I'm just looking for main guys. Dion, of course, Emmett, Staubach, White. Yeah, Rayfield. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some guys missing.
Yes.
Missing that should be.
70s era.
In the 70s era, especially.
Right.
And I mean, some in the 90s. Some in the 90s.
70s is the biggest. The 70s is the biggest default of missing players from the Ring of Honor, because that's where the Cowboys dynasty started. And if you ask Roger Staubach, he'll tell you this player belongs in the Ring of Honor. Guarantee you Roger Staubach would.
Yeah, and I would tell you this, and I gotta agree with you. Ultra is, I mean, if I left out Jerome Brown. I mean, you talk about one of the most dominating, defensive tackles, short career. I mean, tragically, died in a car accident.
Yep.
But, he played 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
But he was so impactful to that
Yep.
Eagles defense and that Eagles team. And I mean, Kevin Gogan, when he was on the show, he talked about, Jerome Brown and how, I mean, tough he was, and just a career cut way too short. But yeah, he's another one that you can argue with on a short career.
Yeah.
That one may be tougher because it was only pretty much a 5-year career. And he, but
I wish Jerry would host. I wish he would host something once a year, or maybe every 2 years. Host something at Frisco for the 70s era players.
Yeah. Harvey Martin's not in the Hall of Fame. That's another one.
I wish he would host that, and they come in, the 70s era players. I wish they would come in. I would get a plane ticket, hotel, rent a car, all that, to fly there just for that. Just for that. Because if he does that, he's bridging the gap. He's bridging the gap and bringing those guys out the fold. Because if a lot of those guys were back in the media or out there at signings and stuff like that, the attention would start to swirl on them. And as the attention starts to swirl, writers and voters would start to think about it and say, you know what? Why isn't this guy in? Why isn't this guy been nominated? Because I'm sick of everybody going first ballot when there's people from the 70s that aren't even getting in there after 20, 30, 40, 50 years and not even being considered. If Drew Pearson doesn't stomp that table on his own behalf, as he did, the next year he wouldn't have been in. That woke them writers up. That woke him up when they just overlooked him. And he said, they did me like this and led me on. And the whole world saw it. And the writers thinking, you know what? Yeah, we made a mistake, because they were looking at the new shiny pennies that were just coming out eligible instead of going back looking at the folks that laid the groundwork. And, and good for you, Drew.
Yeah. And I talked about it before. We'll get things wrapped up soon, but I talked about it before with the history of the Cowboys and the storied history of players. And yeah, I would love to see, and they do some of it, so I don't want to say they don't, but I would love to see them have some of the legends and some of the great, and it doesn't have to be the Hall of Fame guys. Right. It could be some of those guys that were, really important to the team. Bob Brunig,
Bob Brunig,
Thomas Hollywood Hendersons. We talked about a Eugene, Lockhart. You talk about, a lot of these now, Alvin Harper, you see him a little bit out there. You see some of these guys, you see Russell Maryland out there with some of the, the tours, and Tony Hill's out there with it, and Charles Haley, you see a lot. So they do get it, but I think it'd be kind of cool on the rally days. They usually have like one guy, a former player. Is get like get a bunch of them out there, man. Make it a fun event. Bring some legends out there. I mean, get a chance for kids to take a picture with D.D. Lewis, somebody, Larry Cole. I mean, there's so many that you could throw out there, and it just, I think it does great for goodwill of the franchise, to the fans, and just the history, because you've got a lot of, Cowboy fans that love the history. They love to learn the history of the franchises. Leroy Jordan, another solid one. I mean, there's just so many. It's endless. But like I said, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be the all the Hall of Famers. It can be those middle tier guys. You'd love to see that with every era, even the 90s and the 2000s and all of those guys. I mean, I saw Brady James was out there, in this area that I sit at. He was sitting there, they have mingling, and he signed it. I think that's just so cool to be able to, just talk a few minutes with some of these guys that played on the team. I think it doesn't hurt.
And those guys from the 70s, a lot of those guys from the 70s dynasty era, they went to Super Bowls in the early 80s when we played Pittsburgh. 5 Super Bowls. 1, 2. 5 Super Bowls from the Colts to Pittsburgh. Some of those players we're talking about that aren't in the Ring of Honor endured that stretch. And where are
And I would say, and I think Ultra's maybe meaning this, maybe hopefully he's because you can't compare the stats from different you can't compare the 70s guys to this generation, because the passing is just so much different. Just like the running, you can't compare, the running in the 90s compared to now. I mean, back in the 90s, it was run first. 70s was the same way. It was 80s were running, where now some of these running backs aren't be able to gather. I mean, you look at some of these running backs today that if you compare them, they're not going to be near Emmitt Smith's yards, but they're impactful, like a CMC. I mean, a Derrick Henry. You got to think that they're, Hall of Famers. Their careers may get cut short. They may not have a long career like an Emmitt Smith did, or Walter Payton and Barry Sanders and all these guys. But same thing, receivers. You got receivers now that catch more passes in a year than, go look at Stallworth and Lynn Swann. I think they caught 300 passes in their whole career, and you got guys catching 100 in a season.
And they're playing 17 games now. You can rack up more numbers. Their games were like 12 and 14 games back then. And you can knock the hell out of people back then, which ended their careers or gave them more injuries earlier. Now you can throw a pillow at them and you're going to get a penalty. And now you got 17 games to play where you can rack up more yardage. It was a whole different era back that time, because from the hits to the illegal hits to the stuff that's been safeguarded now, the helmets that were thin, I mean, just everything. And then those guys still racked up the yardage and the performance back then in at least a less amount of games than they do today. So, and you can never go by the numbers, because there is no equilibrium in that. The stats don't even come close in comparison, because of the errors and how many games they got to play and the safety factors they get to play with now versus back then.
Yeah. And I think, to your Ultra's point, you look at Pro Bowls and look at this kind of stuff. The other thing you look at is like the all-decade team. So a lot of times, like I think Darren Woodson kind of got screwed a little bit because he wasn't on the all-decade team in the 90s or in the 2000s, if my memory's right. So, some of these things, it's subjective to where they end up. But I mean, I know this. Darren Woodson was a very important part of at least 2 of those Super Bowls. Maybe the first year he was a rookie, he's kind of getting in there. Or is he in the second year? I think that was rookie. And you still had Washington and who was it? Was it Washington and Thomas Everett were on the first? They were the safeties in the first Super Bowl, if my memory's right. But I mean, he played on special teams and he played in on nickel and things like that. So he did have a part. But I mean, he was so important to all that. So let's wrap it up. Zeke in the Hall of Fame or Ring of Honor? No,
I don't think
no. I mean, Hall of Fame. He had some rushing titles and this and that. I don't know if he had enough to get him in. I'd say no. I'd say no on both. I mean,
and Eli Manning does deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. Eli Manning, I don't care I don't know where these people come up with this.
Well, I would say this. Let me argue you a minute. I mean, he was a 500 quarterback. He did win 2 Super Bowls. If you're going to do that, you got to put Jim Plunkett in. Jim Plunkett's not in the Hall of Fame. He's won 2 Super Bowls.
What?
That's all I'm going to say.
Jim Plunkett's not in?
Nope.
I got a picture with Jim Plunkett.
Nope.
With his ring.
Nope.
But Eli Manning is an easy argument to make. Without Eli Manning, Giants don't go to those 2 Super Bowls. Eli Manning scared me when he played Dallas. Because Eli Manning was always the antidote to why the Giants beat Dallas. That man, I'm telling you, when they said they were going to get rid of Eli, I was like, they're going to get rid of Eli? They're not sure? And when they say Eli's gone, I was like, because Eli Manning, I'm telling you, he was a Giant, he was a Cowboys killer, Eli Manning. And
there was a point where he was, and then it got away, and then Dallas owned, Eli. But there was definitely a point.
He earned the being in the Hall of Fame. This man went to 2 Super Bowls. He beat the New England Patriots twice. Without Eli Manning, they don't get to those Super Bowls. So, I'm not a big Giants fan, but it is what it is.
No, Eli Manning. I mean, he was 117 and 117. If you're going to judge quarterbacks by a record, and I mean, if you're going to judge it, I'm just throwing these out there just so you know. He lost 10 or more games 4 times in his career. He had 244 interceptions. His interception percentage is 3%. To put that in perspective, Dak Prescott's like 1.4, 1.6. I mean, and Dak Prescott's, believe it or not, one of the lowest interception percentage quarterbacks in NFL history. But he does have 366 touchdowns, 2 Super Bowls against Tom Brady. That to me is what obviously would put him over the top. I'm not saying he shouldn't be in, but if you're going to say it's because of 2 Super Bowls, then how does a 2-time Super Bowl champion, a Super Bowl MVP, comeback player of the year, rookie of the year, all that kind of stuff, and Jim Plunkett, who has a 500 record, same as Eli, 500 record. How does he not get in the Hall of Fame?
But it's not him. It's the voters. Like I said earlier, the voters are looking at the recent shiny penny. They don't go back. It's the voters' fault. It's not Plunkett's fault. It's not Eli's fault. It's the voters. You think the voters are going back? I'm older than most of the voters. So I know they're not going back looking at the Plunkett days. They're not even concerned about that. They don't even want to spend the time to do research. They want easy pickings. What's the shiny penny in front of me during my era? Okay, boom, boom. If the voters did their research, there are players in the last 5 years that would not be in the Hall of Fame right now. They're going, but they would go a few years later because the voters, doing their due diligence, would go back and get those players well-deserving and put them in. So my remedy to it is, voters, do your research, but expand it. Expand the Hall of Fame to 15 players. Don't do it limited because you're worrying about how long the celebration is going to be in the speeches. Expand it to 15 players. That'll give you plenty time to catch up. You got plenty landscape you're building onto the Hall of Fame. You know, the elite are the elite. Give them their due. Plunkett winning Super Bowls, he's not in there. Dan Marino's in there. He ain't won a damn Super Bowl.
Oh, I agree. Here's an interesting one. Terrell Davis should not be in the Hall of Fame. I would just say this, and I want to get your opinion. He only played 4 really years. The other 3 years were injury ridden. I mean, he didn't, but in his 4 years, 1,100 yards, 1,500 yards, 1,700 yards, 2,000 yards. The only reason he's a coin flip to me, but the only reason I would say yes is because he was, as great as John Elway was, Terrell Davis was the reason that team got over the hump and win 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah, because without him, Elway doesn't have what he has. And before that, Elway was going to Super Bowls getting blown out.
Yeah, because he had no help. He was a one-man. He was a one-man show. No, the defense was okay. He had no running game.
He was a gunslinger, and gunslingers weren't winning Super Bowls. But at the same token, that's another one that the voters are looking at the recent shiny penny.
Yeah.
They're not going back doing their research. It's not any of the players' faults that they're not in the Hall of Fame. And it's not the players' faults who are in there that people say shouldn't be. If the voters were going back, doing their research, due diligence, and get those players, like I said, from the 70s eras and put them in the Hall of Fame like they're supposed to, there wouldn't be an argument about players that are going in now. But they haven't. And it's a travesty that everybody in the NFL arena, from analysts, from former players that are analysts, to Roger Goodell, to all of them, haven't shined a light on that and saying, look at the travesty we've created by not bringing these players in. They're not doing that. And I guess sometimes it takes just an average fan to get the bullpen and somebody put a mic in his face to make it an issue. Because if I had an opportunity on Fox Sports for 30 minutes to talk about this, everybody in America hearing it, eventually the ground will swell. And next thing you know, the conversation will come up and analysts will have addressed, who is that guy that was on Fox Sports? They gave him that fan talking to him. But you know what? He's got a point. You know what?
Yeah.
Look back in the region. And once the conversation gets the ground swelling, that's when the attention goes to these players. But until then, if they're out of the league and they're living their lives and they're not around that often in the media, nobody cares to go back and do the research. So it's always going to be subjective who's in and who's not.
Yeah. And I would say that it was one, Tyron Smith, Travis Frederick. I think Tyron Smith will get in, rightfully so. I think Frederick, the trouble he's going to have again is just a short career, and it's unfortunate. And he's a center. So centers, they don't get a lot of the cred. Their position's not, they don't get a lot of the love. And the centers you usually see in there are your long-term, the guys who've been there 20 years. You're like Dermontti Dawsons and
Kelsey.
I forgot who the one that was with the Dolphins a long time, and some of these guys. But he's 6 years. I mean, but 5 Pro Bowls in 6 years. I think he had like 3. Am I looking at right? 3 All Pros, 1 first team, or 2 first teams and 1 second team, or whatever it was.
But if he's in the media. If he's in the media
attention, I just don't. I think center's just not a glam position. I think he's gonna have a hard time getting in. No Super Bowls. I mean, Super Bowls usually help, right? That kind of puts a spotlight. Didn't have that short career. I think he's gonna have a hell of a time. I think if you look at this, if you look at the offensive linemen under, with that era, I think obviously Zach Martin will get in, and I think Tyron Smith would get in, but I don't know.
But see, Mike. You and I, if we were voters, we would be looking at it from a logical, intelligent perspective. We're not looking at the shiny penny.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, these players that deserve to be in there, the only way they're going to get in there is if somehow they stay close to the media. And when they're close to the media, the conversation comes up. And when the conversation comes up, the ground swells. And when the ground swells, the Darren Woodsons get known, and all of a sudden now he's going to be putting all things, because there's been a push by a lot of people in the media and the NFL talking about Darren Woodson. And when the players start talking about it, the writers pay attention.
Yeah.
And if those players leave and go into their happy retirement and they stay out of the media, nobody's concerned. But once you get in the media, and unfortunately, some of them are going to have to do their own diligence to get themselves known. They get in the media and people start hearing about them. Other players start saying, you know what, you're right. Ed Too Tall Jones, I bet you Michael Strahan and some of these other players, if a conversation came up on Fox, CBS Sports, James Brown, all them talking, and somebody said, you know what I want to bring up? Let's say Chad brought it up. I want to bring up something that's really been bothering me. Why isn't Too Tall Jones in the Hall of Fame? I guarantee you some of them on that panel say, what do you mean? He is in the Hall of Fame.
I know that for a fact because I've interviewed a lot of people on our channel, and I always bring that up, and they think he's in the Hall of Fame, and they think he's in the Ring of Honor. Most people don't even know he's not.
And some of the players in the media would probably think he's in there. But if one person in the media brought it up, NFL Network, CBS Sports, Fox Sports, ABC Sports, into that, even Feinbaum, if they bring it up, Stephen A. Smith bring it up, I guarantee you the tension starts to swell on them. And within 4 to 5 years, Too Tall Jones is in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and I don't disagree. But I'd say this, Ultra, the only problem with comparing Baselli to Frederick is Baselli was a left tackle. I mean, that's going to hold a lot more weight. Right, wrong, or indifferent. I'm not saying it's fair, but that's just the reality of it. I think that's why he got in more. And
he was in the media.
Yeah.
Tony Baselli was in the media,
and he was the first pick for the Jaguars, Jaguar Hall of Fame. I mean, there was so many things outside the football, like between the lines, that he had going for him. And like I said, it just a lot of people. I mean, I just said a lot of people just did not even know. But I love the conversation. I mean, maybe like I said, Greg, you and I'm going to work on some stuff. Maybe we need to do some history lessons on some Cowboys and some rankings. I did a little bit of it. It maybe be good to have someone as seasoned as you, because you can help fill in the gaps where I'm not there, because you saw a lot of these guys playing. We'll do some best of and top 5 and this and that. We'll maybe put some shows together. So that'd be a lot of fun. I love that. I could talk. I mean, we've been on here for over 2 hours. I could talk about this. I could probably go another 2 hours, but
I wonder how many people in the chat, anybody in the chat going to be at the Pittsburgh game?
Yeah, is anyone going to be at the Steelers game this week? I know G is going to, he's like the road warrior. I think he's going to be there. I think there's a few others that I know. I got offered it, man. They said, hey, you come up, we got a ticket for you, but it was just a little too difficult. But I love that stadium. I love the crowd. I love it's just such a cool experience to see the Cowboys in the Steelers. It's just a fun, just that, the aura with Cowboy Steelers. I'll never get over that. So anyway,
and to be there with my brother, who's a diehard, because when I think it was Super Bowl 10, when me and him were in the living room at halftime fighting, we were fighting.
I can't believe you're not sitting next to each other. You guys were in the living
room. Well, no, because Mike's gonna be on the Pittsburgh side, and I'm gonna be, Mike's loyal to Pittsburgh. I'm loyal to Dallas. We're loyal to each other. We love each other to death. But there's no way we're going to sit on the same side. No way. I have to be over there on the Cowboy side. He's going to be on the – but prior to the game, we're going to be doing a lot of videos together, pictures together and everything, because, we love each other like that. And he's a diehard Steelers fan. I'm a Cowboys fan. Over the years, during Christmas or sometime, I'll see something online and I'll surprise him and order him something Pittsburgh Steelers, and then Mike will get me something Dallas Cowboys, and we always talking smack during the season. So this is gonna be the first game first NFL game he and I attended together, and first NFL game he and I attend together when our teams are playing each other. Yeah, and Mike he's been to Pittsburgh a lot.
It's going to be a lot of fun. So maybe on game day, I'll be doing my Sunday show. I'll probably be doing it solo now because you're going to be up there. But maybe you just check in. I'll give you the link and you can just call. Give me, boots on the ground. Give me a little feel of the street. Maybe you and your brother tell a little trash talk and, get on there and figure it out. We'll
I'm going to get Mike and see if we could do that. See if we could do something like that.
Yeah, that'll be fun. But all you guys in the chat, definitely appreciate it. I'll just leave it. Dak Prescott, if he were to ever hopefully get us that 6th Lombardi, he's in the Hall of Fame. I promise you that. He's in the Ring of Honor. He's in the Hall of Fame. His numbers stand alone with that. I mean, he has no issues there. So it is definitely, and they need to make Overshown, let him get that 0. He needs to get that 0 number. I think it's terrible. I know Kelly talked to the Rowdy at our tailgate party and said, hey, man, you got to give up that number, man. We got to get this thing worked out. But, hey, and all you guys, 260 hanging out with us, make sure you hit that like, subscribe, share if you haven't already. Greg, I want to give you the final thoughts.
I wanted to get me an Overshown jersey. I really do. But I don't want to do what I did with Flournoy, get a jersey, and then he changed his number. So I want to wait and see if that happens. But this game at Pittsburgh is going to be one of those measuring sticks. And this measuring stick is going to determine what we're going to be doing for the rest of the season and if we got it. And I'm looking forward to a good game, and I'm looking forward to us winning. I'm not going to the second game in a row and we lose. We're winning in Pittsburgh, and I can't wait to see what we put on the field because we got nothing to lose against Pittsburgh and everything to gain. The fact that they don't have an offense that's overwhelming, and our offense should be much better. And their defense is the catalyst. But if we strategize towards it, our offense should be fine. So, folks, strap in, get ready. I'll probably be at the hotel, probably doing a hype video at the hotel somewhere, probably with my brother Mike. I'll push him off to the side. But it's gonna be fun. I'm gonna be posting videos on Gregory Girard 146 TikTok, on my Facebook, Gregory Girard. So be looking out for them because the Cowboys are going to go up in Pittsburgh. We're going to win. And that song, Black and Yellow, Black and Yellow, Black and Yellow, changed it. Blue and white, blue and white, blue and white. Go Cowboys.
We're going to get this thing going. So, guys, I may be live Monday, may not. Obviously, we had the storm here. My daughter cheers for the football team. You guys all know that. They had to cancel the game Friday. They may be making it up Monday. If that's the case, I won't be on the live show Monday, but we'll be back Wednesday with Kelly K9 and I. And then Sunday, I'll be hanging with you guys, getting ready for game day. We may get a surprise appearance or two. Maybe someone getting ready to talk some smack, couple brothers getting ready to beat each other up. We'll figure it out. But until then, enjoy a stress-free, relaxing football game. Go Bucks. Go Cardinals. Get it done, and let's have some fun, guys. I appreciate it. Have a great day. We'll see you.
Give me somebody that's hungry. Give me somebody that's hungry.